The story began amidst the yellow dust. In its center, a poor boy was surrounded by corpses and a murderous demon. Desperate and unable to react, he was captured and killed, his body only being found the next morning. When the patrol found him, they questioned why he had entered a restricted area. One of the workers remarked that now that there was a victim, it would be necessary to file an official report. Another examined the footprints and concluded that it could only have been the work of one of the larger creatures. Everyone present began to feel a presence approaching through the forest. Then, a woman with long black hair cut her own hand with a knife, and her blood began to condense around the blade. Her companion warned Officer Kang that the creature was nearby, and indeed there was a shadow moving through the yellow dust. Kang stepped forward, taking responsibility for the situation. Her arm had merged with a massive blade made of blood. She was part of the Ministry of the Environment, more precisely the Special Task Force against the yellow dust. Meanwhile, in the city of Seoul, a young man was locked inside a public bathroom, trembling with nervousness. This was the interview room for candidates for public service, and he seemed on the verge of a breakdown. His name was Han Maru, 29 years old. Sitting in front of the sink, he tried to calm himself down. He washed his face, took a deep breath, and swallowed his medication for anxiety. Even a small bird perched on the window seemed to glare at him with contempt, as if mocking his weakness. Han Maru was an ordinary young man living in South Korea. He had studied at a mid-tier university and, like so many others, struggled to find a stable job. For 5 years, he had been preparing for the Level 9 civil service exam. Now, he had finally reached the interview stage. When his number, 35, was called, he tried to encourage himself by saying this time he would pass. Still, he walked with his body stiff as a board, frozen by fear. In front of the interviewer, Han Maru grew even more nervous. When asked why he had applied for a public position, he replied that he wanted to contribute to the community, though deep down he knew it was for the job security. Then they asked what he would do if a superior told him to do something unethical. He said he would honestly discuss the problem to find a solution, but in truth, he thought he would just ignore the request. When asked about his interpersonal relationships, he claimed to get along well with colleagues, but betrayed himself by admitting he wasn't good at communication. At that moment, he realized he had contradicted himself, but the interview went on. The last question was about the most challenging moment in his life and how he had overcome it. Han Maru hesitated. He said he couldn't remember anything particularly difficult, but mentioned that he used to go to the mountains with his father when he was a child. As soon as he said it, flashes invaded his mind. He remembered everything: the demon in front of him, the bodies, the blood scattered on the ground. Fear consumed him entirely, and unable to go on, Han Maru fainted on the spot. Things got worse when the man who tried to help him ended up being vomited on. Hours later, back at his apartment, Han Maru felt utterly defeated. Sitting in silence, he thought he had ruined everything. He couldn't get a job, didn't have a girlfriend, and had no friends. His spirits were completely crushed. Then someone knocked on the door. It was his mother, asking why he hadn't answered the phone. Han Maru was surprised to see her there, thinking she would be at work. She explained she had just stopped by to drop off some side dishes and would be leaving right away. He asked if there was any meat, and she replied it was only beans. Even so, he thanked her. When his mother asked how the interview went, Han Maru couldn't hide his sadness. In response, she gave him a light motivational tap, telling him he would do better next time, and urging him not to be discouraged. She also asked if he was short on allowance money. Though he said he was fine and old enough to handle it himself, his mother insisted. Flexing her arm in a playful threat, she forced him to accept the money. Embarrassed, Han Maru gave in. Before leaving, she mentioned that the fortune teller had been right. She said he wouldn't do well in the interview, and that he needed to go to the mountains. Han Maru was puzzled, but had no chance to ask. Shortly after, he was already at a port, boarding a boat to the mountain region. He wondered how long it had been since his last visit to that place. The truth was, he didn't like going back to the mountains, but his mother had spoken with a famous shaman about his job situation, and had been told to send him there. According to the shaman, the reason for his difficulties in life was not only his panic disorder or ADHD. The true cause was spiritual. It had been 20 years since his father disappeared in the mountains and never returned. The shaman said Han Maru's father had died there, and his spirit was blocking his son's path, preventing him from succeeding. To change this, he would have to rid himself of that energy. With that thought, Han Maru went to the old mountain cabin where his father used to stay. As soon as he entered, he was overcome by a suffocating sensation. Memories began to surface slowly. He remembered how sometimes his father seemed strange, as if living in another world. The atmosphere was heavy and unsettling. Even so, Han Maru decided he needed to finish quickly and head back down. He tried to believe his father was at peace wherever he was. He had come because his mother had asked. She had raised him alone, enduring many hardships, so Han Maru made a silent wish to the spirit of the mountain to bless his mother, not him. Suddenly, yellow smoke began to rise among the forest trees. He thought it might be a fire and started descending quickly, wanting to leave as fast as possible. But then, a voice behind him repeated the exact words words he had just thought. This confused him. It was as if someone were imitating his thoughts. Out of the yellow smoke, a strange figure emerged. It was a bloated creature with half its head destroyed, holding a spear made of bamboo. Hanmaru froze completely. He tried to convince himself it was only an illusion, but when he turned to run, the creature's spear pierced him. He fell to his knees, feeling pain spread through his entire body, and thought he might die right there. He regretted the years wasted, studying and working non-stop, never having truly enjoyed life. He thought that at least if he died, he wouldn't have to worry about finding a job anymore. Life seemed to have no meaning at all. But then, he thought of the only person who would care about his death, his mother. She would be devastated. Because of that, Hanmaru decided he couldn't die there. He couldn't let everything end like this. When the creature approached again, he noticed an even more disturbing detail. There was an eye inside the monster's mouth. The creature lunged at him, biting down hard on his shoulder, and the pain drove his mind to madness. He began to remember his father, the strange moments, the empty stares, the way his father seemed changed. Without fully understanding why, Hanmaru bit back. Violently, he tore the creature's flesh and chewed it like a starving predator. A feeling of hatred and fury consumed him. He felt himself overtaken by blood and madness. And then everything went dark. When he woke up, he was alive. He stood up in a panic, searching for the smoke and the monster, not understanding what had happened. A man approached and asked what he had seen. Hanmaru told him the yellow dust had appeared out of nowhere, and then the monster showed up and attacked him. He said he thought he was going to die since he had been struck in the abdomen. The man commented to his partner that the sensors had detected a demon in that area, but the alarm had stopped almost immediately. He had thought the system was malfunctioning, but now realized Hanmaru had actually encountered a demon. The woman found that impossible. Even with demon blood, no one could activate abilities that quickly. The man asked what the last thing he remembered from the day before was, and Hanmaru was confused. It was only then he realized he had been unconscious for an entire day, practically in a coma. The man concluded that if he had survived the attack, then he had probably acquired an ability. The woman warned that this was too much for someone to take in so suddenly, but the man replied that they had all gone through something similar. He said it was now just a matter of finding out what had happened inside him. Finally, he remarked that Hanmaru had arrived at just the right time, and that he would also be participating. Hanmaru, completely lost, asked what it was about. Later, he found himself in another selection process. This time, it was something even stranger. He had been included in an orientation for government employees, but had no idea how or why he was there. He thought everything was far too strange. The expressions of the people around him weren't good, as if they were all going through something similar. Then, a woman appeared with authority. She was Yu Young-yoon, head of the Seoul Central Special Task Force. With a firm and professional stance, she welcomed the new participants of the Ministry of the Environment's orientation. Hanmaru said he believed he couldn't participate in the event, but Young interrupted to say she had just received a report from the Ganghwa Island team. It confirmed that Hanmaru had been hired as a special employee starting that day, and she even congratulated him. Hanmaru was in shock. He couldn't understand how someone could be hired as a special employee without ever even applying. Yu Young-yoon, with full authority, explained that everyone there was probably already familiar with the concept of special government employees working under the Ministry of the Environment. These agents were responsible for protecting lives, and therefore, everything they did from that moment on had to remain in absolute secrecy. No information could be revealed to family, friends, or anyone else. If it leaked, they would be punished under national security law. Hanmaru began to realize this was going far beyond anything he could have imagined. Yu Young-yoon continued explaining that everyone present was a recruit who had acquired demonic abilities over the past month. According to her, when a demon's blood enters the human body, there is an extremely small chance the person will acquire a special ability. Hanmaru mentally scoffed, thinking it was absurd. He had never come into contact with a demon, but then he remembered yes, he had been bitten, and worse, he had bitten the creature back. That contact was more than enough. Yu Young-yoon said that fortunately demons only appeared in uninhabited mountains, and that their presence was always linked to the yellow dust. She also explained that the dust concentration ranged from level 1 to 10, with higher levels corresponding to stronger demons. One of the candidates raised his hand, and Yu Young-yoon showed special interest in him. She said she was eager to see his performance since he had acquired the ability of a level 7 demon. The boy replied confidently, promising to do his best. Right after, Yu Young-yoon asked Hanmaru what ability he had received. He humbly replied that he didn't know yet. The boy with the level 7 ability let out a mocking laugh, making his disdain clear. Hanmaru noticed and felt bothered by it. He thought that although he might seem insignificant now, he wouldn't let it get to him. His only wish was to get out of there as soon as possible. At that moment, a new alarm went off. Young announced it signaled the appearance of a new demon. Later, they were all already heading toward the mountains for what would be their first field training. The mission was simple: demonstrate their abilities. Still confused, Hanmaru repeated to himself that safety came first as he moved through the thick yellow dust. The first person he saw was Officer Kang, and as he looked at her, he wondered if her arm was okay. That's when he saw what was in front of her. A massive blood blade was lodged in the head of a huge demon, pinning it against a rock. Hanmaru froze at the sight. He couldn't comprehend what he was seeing. This was far beyond anything he had expected. Young called everyone's attention, saying the practical training was starting. The level 1 demon, despite its size, was relatively weak. She also said that Officer Kang, from the Ganghwa Island team, had already stabbed a blade into its brain, so it wouldn't move. When she noticed Hanmaru among the crowd, she wondered what kind of ability he had to be able to take down a demon alone as he had done before. Soon after, Young ordered everyone to use their abilities against the demon. Hanmaru panicked. He had no idea how to fight that thing. His panic disorder began to flare up, and fear consumed him. But then, something changed. His heart pounded hard, and inside his mind, a new sensation arose. He felt hunger, an abnormal hunger, as if something inside him wanted to devour everything. In his mind, a massive beast appeared and gave a simple command, "Eat now." The hunger grew stronger with each passing moment. The boy with the level 7 ability stepped closer and mocked him again, asking if he was smiling out of fear. Hanmaru, unsettled, said that wasn't it, he was just a little hungry. He tried to play it off, but he couldn't explain what he was feeling. The other boy thought Hanmaru was just a pathetic rookie, and he took the opportunity to insult everyone there, calling them useless. Before the fight could truly begin, Young decided to explain some basic principles. She said that the yellow dust around them was emitted by the demons themselves, and the stronger the demon, the denser and thicker the dust. Within it, demons had absurd regenerative power, but that wasn't all. To demonstrate, Young cut her own arm with a knife, revealing that those with demon blood in their bodies could also regenerate inside the yellow dust. Even so, she warned that fatal wounds could still kill them. Yoon added that the powers they had acquired only worked within the dust emitted by a demon. Once it disappeared, they all returned to being ordinary people. Meanwhile, the level 7 boy looked visibly bored, wondering how much longer he'd have to listen to the lecture. Hanmaru thought the most important thing right now was simply to activate his power. He knew that somehow he had to get the demon's dust into his blood, so he bit his own lip until it bled. When the blood came into contact with the dust, he felt the power awaken. He concluded that by injuring himself, he could manipulate the yellow dust's energy. Without hesitation, he broke his own finger. That's how he awakened his power. But what no one expected was that Hanmaru would also break the blood blade, sealing the demon, deliberately setting it free. Officer Kang tried to warn everyone, but it was already too late. The demon was loose. She charged forward without hesitation to try to restrain it again. But Young, the group's leader, stopped her. She said there was no more time for training. If they couldn't handle a simple level 1 demon, they would die on the battlefield anyway. The freed demon looked directly at Hanmaru. As if recognizing him, it hurled a harpoon that pierced his shoulder. He felt the pain and didn't understand why he had been targeted so directly. When the demon moved in to finish the attack, it was interrupted by a special ability. A giant centipede appeared and wrapped around it. This was the power of another agent, known as the demonic centipede user. Immediately afterward, another agent rushed the creature using claws, which only enraged it further. Even with half its head destroyed, the demon kept fighting. The wound wasn't enough to kill it. They wondered if the regeneration had already begun. The answer came quickly. The monster yanked the centipede in with tremendous force, dragging the agent along with it. It grabbed him by the neck and was about to devour him. At that moment, the boy with the demonic temple ability, the same one who had mocked Hanmaru, earlier activated his power again. He broke another finger and, at the same time, snapped the demon's neck with brutal force. In the next instant, he also broke his wrist, finishing with a blow that tore off the creature's head. He knew that cutting a demon's throat stopped the yellow dust from being emitted. He told himself it was a shame. He thought he could have had some fun with that enemy. Kang stormed over, furious. She asked if he had been the one to break the blade, sealing the demon, accusing him of putting everyone at risk with his reckless actions. But the boy coldly asked if she had any proof. Kang suggested breaking all his bones to find out. That's when Yoon stepped in, saying that despite the situation, the rookie had handled the chaos very well. At that moment, she noticed someone was missing. Hanmaru had already fled, running down the mountain at full speed. As he ran, he kept repeating to himself how absurd this all was. He had suddenly become a special public employee and was already being sent to kill demons. Impossible. Running was the only option. But his escape quickly led him to something even worse. Meanwhile, Young commented that Hanmaru had fled the moment he saw the demon, saying he wasn't suited for the job. Kang, on the other hand, wondered what had happened to him earlier. Something was off. The demon was dead, but the yellow dust still lingered. When Young heard that, Hanmaru was already standing before a massive portal. From within it emerged a terrifying creature, a monstrously shaped demon. Upon seeing it, Hanmaru thought he had finally escaped the lunatics from the task force, but then wondered why he had to face this kind of thing again. He thought the creature had vanished, but it was right behind him. At the top of the mountain, Yoseok arrived to inform Kang that the office had called, issuing a level 3 alert. Young was shocked. Demons had never appeared in the same area at the same time before. Kang asked exactly where the new demon had appeared. At that moment, Hanmaru was fleeing in desperation, screaming for help. He ran non-stop, tripped over rocks, tumbled down a slope, until finally spotting a shed near a small house. He hid, but the demon had followed him. It was right behind him. He noticed something strange on the monster's head, a sharp-looking crystal. Just when he thought things couldn't get worse, an old man appeared, slowly walking through the gate. The old man muttered in confusion, wondering why there was so much yellow fog in broad daylight. He could barely see, but Hanmaru saw clearly the demon was standing right in front of the elderly woman who accompanied the old man. He felt he had to do something, but he knew he had no power. He remembered Yu Young-yoon's words in the yellow dust. He had regeneration, just like the demons themselves, but he still had to be careful about fatal wounds. He knew he had to survive. Safety came first. The woman began approaching the creature without realizing the danger. When she finally saw it, she fell to the ground, defenseless. She was about to be killed by the crystal blades protruding from the demon's head. But then, Hanmaru appeared in front of her. Even trembling, he placed himself between the creature and the woman, panting, and asked if she was all right. But he was not well. Han had lost one of his arms, and his back was riddled with wounds. On his knees, with his body trembling and his vision darkening, he silently thought that his level 1 ability was useless, as empty as his resume. Everywhere, resumes mattered, and he had nothing to offer. In the end, he would die for having no value at all. He hadn't even been able to protect a defenseless old lady. And yet, even as he felt death drawing near, he didn't want to die. With everything he had left, he wished someone would save him. It was then that the yellow dust entered his body through his bloodstream. An impulse took over him, and a deep, savage hunger emerged. Even wounded and near death, Han lunged forward instinctively, opening his mouth and fiercely attacking the demonic creature. Officer Kang heard the sound of the clash from afar. When she arrived at the scene, she found Han in an almost animalistic state, sinking his teeth into the demon's neck and tearing off a piece of flesh with his mouth. Not understanding what she was seeing, Kang froze for a moment in shock. But the demon immediately struck back, hitting Han with such force that it knocked him unconscious. Even so, Han had already swallowed the creature's flesh. Kang noticed something strange. The wound from the bite wasn't regenerating. The demon's natural healing had been blocked for some unknown reason. However, there was no time to analyze it. The fight needed to end. Kang took the demon's own crystal and cut her hand, letting her blood form into her signature weapon, the blood blade. The enemy tried to counterattack, launching a rain of crystals, but Kang dodged them all with precision and, without giving it a chance to react, split the demon in half with a single strike. After eliminating the enemy, she rushed to the elderly woman, who was still there, confused by everything. The old woman asked what was going on, and Kang calmly replied that it had just been a wild boar that had escaped. The woman, concerned, mentioned that those boars were always destroying her crops. Kang thought to herself that, thankfully, ordinary people forgot about demons as soon as the yellow dust dissipated. She reassured the woman that she had nothing to worry about, as she and the public officials would take care of everything. As soon as the woman went inside, Kang turned her serious gaze toward Han. She noticed that, in just a matter of minutes, his lost arm had already grown back. That made no sense. She had never seen regeneration that fast in a human. She began to suspect whether his ability was truly level 1. When Han woke up, he received unexpected news. He would have to work the next day. Even after all that demons, near-death, pain, shock, he would still have to get out of bed and follow his routine. But he didn't want to go. He was still mentally recovering from everything. Still, the reality was that he needed the job and was desperate for it. For now, he stayed lying down, trying to rest. However, not even in his dreams was there peace. In his own mind, he felt hunger and an uncontrollable urge to kill. That strange feeling still haunted him. During the night, he was awakened by a bright light streaming through his window. When he looked outside, he saw a fire spreading across the mountain with frightening speed. The one responsible was a new demon, made of magma. One of the officers from the special task force was trying to deal with it, creating rain directly over its head to contain the flames. Yu Young-yoon, who was monitoring the operation, thought about how it had all started a week earlier. Since then, demons had been appearing repeatedly in the same area. This was not normal. It was in this context that the task force received an urgent message from the Busan branch. The city director, before anyone else Myung-sik, appeared on screen to give his report. However, instead of informing them right away, he tried to flirt with Yu Young, asking when she would come to Busan. She was visibly annoyed but listened to what he had to say. Myung-sik explained that there was a serious problem on Mount Jeomjeong, where a portal had remained open for 3 consecutive days. When asked, he confirmed that the portal was still active. Even after killing countless demons, they kept appearing without end. The team sent to the mountain was already completely exhausted. When asked if they had identified the cause, Myung-sik said the demons were muttering incoherent words. According to the Busan branch's interpreter, they were asking for a specific person. No one knew who this person was, but it seemed that their presence was essential for the nation's safety. Therefore, an elite agent was sent directly to Mount Jeomjeong, with the mission to solve the problem once and for all. As soon as this man landed in the middle of the yellow dust, he activated his ability called spatial inversion, slowing his fall until he touched the ground lightly. The task force members didn't know who he was, and tried to warn him about the danger of the area. But the demon immediately noticed his presence, and shifted its focus to attack him. One of the agents was almost struck by the creature's blade, which relentlessly chased her. The newcomer then activated a technique called spatial rupture. He created a portal behind the demon's head, and from the top of a roof, tore off its head and spine with absolute precision. As he descended, he told the task force members that they had done a good job, but from here on, he would take over. One of the agents, surprised, asked the team leader who that man was. He replied that she must be a rookie if she didn't recognize him. That was none other than the founder of the Special Task Force, the first ability user in history, the most powerful of all demon energy manipulators. His name was Jong Il-do, and at that moment, he was opening black rifts in the air, with his bare hands ruptures so sharp and destructive that they could cut through anything in their path. The team leader watched in silence. It was the first time he had seen Jong Il-do so close. He had heard stories about users with special abilities, but he had never truly understood why the director was considered the strongest. While thinking this, he saw Il-do open one of those spatial ruptures as if it were a simple portal. Meanwhile, on Cheonggye Mountain in the city of Seoul, a flaming demon was still setting the forest ablaze above the slopes. The task force's attempts to contain the fire had no effect, and many agents were already down or completely exhausted. One of the users, trying to lift his companion to escape, ended up being struck directly by the creature. He tried to shield himself with ice, but when it shattered, he was left at the mercy of death. It was at that moment that Jong Il-do appeared, stepping out of a portal, and hurled the demon away with overwhelming force. He quickly assessed the situation and activated a command to make contact with all units in the field. At the same time, in Gangwon Province, more precisely on Mount Seorak, another ability user was struggling to defeat a demon when he was suddenly sucked into a portal. This did not happen, only there in various other mountains in different regions. The same thing was occurring. All the demons were being pulled into the rifts opened by Il-do's spatial ruptures. One of the operators inside the base informed Yu Young-yoon that the yellow dust had disappeared from all areas except Busan. Jong reassured everyone, saying this was proof that Il-do had arrived safely. He was now standing before all the gathered demons in an isolated location, ready to face them. There, standing before dozens of creatures, Jong Il-do calmly asked if everyone had arrived, as if he were about to start a meeting. The demons charged at him savagely, but he used only a single spatial rupture. The cut was clean and simultaneous, severing the heads of all the demons at once. One of the agents watching from afar was terrified. She had never imagined she would witness so much power at once. But there was one detail: she still hadn't managed to eliminate the lava demon. And even severely wounded, it kept trying to communicate. An interpreter was called in to try to understand what the creature was saying. The demon kept repeating the same phrase, "Bring that one, bring that one." When Il-do asked who that one was, the translation came out muddled. The interpreter said the demon was talking about bringing the husband, but it didn't seem to refer to a real person, only a grotesque imitation of human speech. Even so, Jong Il-do concluded that if they kept appearing, they would have to wipe them all out. He then crushed the lava demon's head without hesitation, saying it was time to put an end to it. He opened a new rift, and with just that action, the demonic portal began to collapse as if it were melting away. The team leader was impressed by what he had witnessed. One of the agents remarked that it was comforting to know there were people like Il-do who could handle these cases. The leader noted that although Jong Il-do looked around 50 years old, he seemed much younger, perhaps also due to his special abilities. Later, Yu Young-yoon went to a meeting with the director. She wanted to better understand what had happened with the demonic gate. She asked directly what he had done with the portal, and Il-do replied that, for now, he had stored it inside his dark space. Yu Young immediately reacted, saying she would rather die than enter that place. But Il-do curtly replied that there was no room for that kind of joke anymore. Jong commented that Il-do was being dramatic, but the director countered that he also had his limits, especially when acting alone. He was overburdened with managing the task force. Yu Young admitted he was right and handed over all the information she had gathered, as requested. Even so, she found it odd that Il-do was so interested in the rookies. When she asked why he wanted that data, the director replied that he needed to understand why the demons were searching for a specific person. They wanted this person for some reason, perhaps even needed them for some larger plan. Later, Han finally showed up for his first day of work. When he told his mother, he saw tears stream down her face. She was moved. Her son had gotten a government job. She cried with happiness, full of pride. Han knew he couldn't avoid coming precisely because of his mother's joy, but he wondered if he would actually do well there. The reception, however, was far from warm. The leader of the team Han had been assigned to didn't welcome him kindly. He was drunk, reeking of alcohol, and made it clear he didn't want a coward on his team. Still puzzled about the assignment, Han heard another agent ask the leader why he had been sent to Gangwon instead of the main headquarters. The team leader answered with irony, hinting that no one sends a level 7 to a place like that without a reason. There was something behind that decision, and no one there seemed to know what it was. Han began to suspect that there was something wrong with the team leader's head, just as there seemed to be with everyone else there. Even so, the man formally welcomed everyone present at the Gangwon office, as if everything was perfectly normal. Han wondered what his job there would be. He had expected a scene of carnage, psychopaths handling demon corpses, or something close to that. But to his surprise, it was just an ordinary, quiet, even boring office. It was nothing like what he had imagined. The team leader introduced himself, Go Daeokman, 41 years old, with 12 years of public service. The other team members were Yoon Ji-won, 36 years old, with 7 years of service, Kim Yuba, 51 years old with 7 years of service, and Nam Yoseok, the youngest, 25 years old with only 1 year in the role. After the introductions, Deokman asked if Han now knew what to do. Han was confused. He thought that even as a newcomer to the organization, he should have at least received some instructions, but maybe the others were just as nervous as he was. Trying to break the ice, Han started a conversation with one of his colleagues, but was immediately rejected, being called pathetic. That was when he realized more clearly everyone there was insane. He then tried talking to Yoseok, hoping to better understand that strange environment. Yoseok began explaining more seriously. He said there were 13 branches of the Special Yellow Dust Task Force, spread across cities like Gyeonggi, Busan, and others. In these branches, there were separate departments, and those classified as level 7 or higher were assigned directly to headquarters. Only for special missions would they be sent elsewhere. On the other hand, regions like Ganghwa, which had low sunlight and weak cloud coverage, were where the less important offices were located. These places received agents considered incompetent or problematic. Han then understood why he had been sent there. That explained it, though he still didn't know what was wrong with the others. Yoseok replied that, of course, not everyone was like that. There were very capable people too. He gave as an example Officer Kang, who happened to be arriving at that very moment. As she entered the office, someone commented with slight annoyance that the manager's shift had already ended and that she should head home. But Kang replied that she had nothing to do at home anyway. Soon after, she noticed Han Maru's presence and found it strange to see him there. She thought it curious that he had lost an arm fighting a demon and regenerated it shortly afterward. But upon waking up, he remembered nothing about what had happened. During a conversation about benefits, Han Maru asked if he would be entitled to housing allowance. The answer surprised him. He thought it meant being in constant life-threatening situations, but Yoseok explained that the housing allowance was 5 times higher than the base salary. Han was impressed. It was an incredibly high amount, but before he could celebrate, Yoseok cut the conversation short, saying that was enough explanation for now. The right thing to do was just wait for the alarm to sound. That was basically what everyone did there. Han accepted that. He thought he wasn't bothering anyone and went on with his day. Time passed, and no alarm had gone off. He started thinking that the job was absurdly easy, and with such a high salary, it was almost like a dream job. When the day was coming to an end, Deokman told everyone they could get ready to leave. He asked the rookies how their first day had gone and if they had any questions. Han said he did. Since the beginning, one question had been stuck in his mind. He wanted to know what exactly a demon was. Where did they come from? Were they from another world? Deokman replied that he didn't really know either. Yoseok added that to this day, there was no concrete explanation. They simply appeared without warning, without logic. Han was thoughtful. He found it strange that such dangerous and deadly creatures appeared out of nowhere, and no one in humanity seemed truly curious about their origin. It was as if everyone had simply accepted that it was just the way things were. Before, when he didn't even know demons existed, his life had been much more peaceful. Now he was certain there was something wrong with everyone in that office. Meanwhile, Yu Young-yoon was once again meeting with director Jung Il-do. She reported that the demon's appearance patterns were returning to normal. Il-do asked if she had discovered the cause of the sudden attack, but Yu Young replied that she hadn't, though she suspected it was a sign they were getting close to something bigger. Jung Il-do, while analyzing a massive chained demon he had captured, said he didn't know for sure either, but he wanted all team leaders to remain on maximum alert. Later, Han found himself in a barbecue restaurant, completely confused. It was his welcome party, organized by the office members. Everyone was eating and drinking, and even though it was something simple, he didn't know how to react. During the celebration, Jiwon mentioned that another important day was approaching. Han was unsure what she meant, and Go Deokman explained that, according to a prophecy, within a year, demons would begin to fall from the sky. It sounded absurd, but Han couldn't stop imagining his own death in such a scenario. Later, the group gathered to drink, trying to forget the weight of it all for a moment. Yoon Ji-won encouraged everyone to drink until they threw up, while Kang recommended moderation. Nam Yoseok was already completely passed out. Han watched everyone around him and couldn't understand how they could act so normally with the demon threat so close. Meanwhile, a new terrifying creature appeared in the skies. During the drinking, an alarm went off, catching everyone by surprise. Diane commented she had been expecting a quiet night, but Kang decided to check it out. Some joked about going drunk, but she said she wanted Han to go with her, which made him almost spit out his drink. Even confused, he kept thinking about the prophecy's warning. He imagined that when the day came, he would be dead. But Kang tried to reassure him, saying that the central headquarters' top fighters were preparing. There were strong people there. Their job was simply to locate and kill demons. Han began to admire Kang. He was afraid of her, but at the same time found her impressive. She said she was curious about Han's special ability, which confused him even more. She joked that she had never seen anyone with an appetite like his. That made Han remember the first demon he fought, and he wondered if it had to do with gluttony. Kang confirmed it did, that his ability seemed to literally be eating demons. Later, Kang was already stabbing a knife into a demon's head and ordered Han to eat the creature. According to their observations, when Han ate demon meat, they lost their ability to regenerate for a week. Even disgusted, he knew he needed to use his power. The creature was like a grotesque octopus. He bit into it with revulsion, and Kang urged him to bite properly. Despite the disgust, he went through with it. The next morning, Han Han was in severe pain. Sue mocked him, saying it was true he always threw up whenever he went on missions. Rand criticized him, saying that because of people like him, others hadn't even had a chance to go into the field yet. They commented that Kang was training Han because he was the only idiot left. Even hurt by the remark, Han admitted they were right. He needed to wake up to reality. When a new alarm sounded, Kang called for him, but he was in the bathroom, wondering if he could really eat a demon while fully conscious. He knew he had a talent, but didn't think it was that good. He decided to put it off, but Kang appeared and found him hiding. He claimed he had food poisoning and wasn't feeling well. Kang replied coldly that maybe he wasn't cut out for this job. She explained that he didn't have to serve the government just because he had powers related to demons, but if he chose to leave, he would have to sign a confidentiality contract and live the rest of his life under surveillance. Han thought that was exaggerated, but Kang said it was better than dying. Mentally fragile people didn't last long. Worse, they could put civilians at risk. She said that if he couldn't fulfill his role, it was better to leave the team, since there was no shortage of personnel. Her words hit Han hard. Later, Deokmen asked where he was, but Han had already been dismissed and was on his way out. He thought leaving was the best option. He'd rather live under surveillance than die in combat. He planned to call his mother to tell her about his decision. However, his mother was on an expedition on Inwang Mountain. When she answered the call, Han warned her not to climb mountains anymore. But she didn't hear him clearly and asked why there was so much yellow dust in that area. The call dropped, and Han immediately realized the danger. He knew that yellow dust meant something serious. At the same time, the task force identified it as a level 5 threat. They soon found a demon with a crystal in its forehead devouring a person. Han ran toward the mountain. The local Inwang team had been almost wiped out. One of the only members still standing, who had the ability to create clones, was trying to distract the demon while a rookie ran for reinforcements. Young received the request for support. It was urgent. The mountain team had passed the green zone and was now in a moderate risk area. Since there were civilians present, the chances of casualties were high. Action had to be taken immediately. Han arrived at the taxi trail. The place was temporarily closed, but he noticed that his mother still hadn't come down from the mountain. When he told a guard, he was stopped from going any further. They claimed there were wild animals, but Han knew the truth. It wasn't an animal, it was a demon. Without being noticed, he began climbing the mountain because he had to save his mother. Meanwhile, she was trying to help a friend who had injured her foot. Kang said she would carry Han's mother's friend, and for a moment everything seemed under control. But soon Han's mother noticed something strange. She saw the silhouette of someone approaching, and upon recognizing the face, exclaimed that she had finally found her son. Han replied that he saw her profile online after a recent post. His mother wanted to know how he got there and asked about his job. He tried to brush it off, saying it didn't matter right now. Her friend recognized him and commented that he had finally become a public servant. His mother confirmed proudly and said he must be popular with the girls. Han told them to stop with the silly talk, especially now when something frightening caught his attention. Above him, a massive demon hovered in the sky. Fear took over his body. He remembered that even back in Ganghwa, he would always faint at the sight of demons. He wondered how he could protect his mother from such a threat if he could barely stand. The fear was so overwhelming that he ended up falling from high up on the mountain, completely weakened. Even so, the impact of the fall didn't stop him from acting. When the demon moved in to attack his mother, crystal spikes appeared in the air and pierced the creature's back before it could strike. Han was confused, trying to understand where those spikes had come from. His frightened mother asked what kind of creature that was and what it had on its forehead. That's when Han realized the crystals had come from his own body. He noticed they were the same as the ones on the head of another demon he had fought before. The crystals floated around him like a crown. It clicked by eating a demon's flesh. He not only prevented it from regenerating but also absorbed its abilities. This renewed Han's hope. Maybe he could win, but he was still hurt, lying on the ground, slowly recovering. Meanwhile, the central team finally arrived. Some members looked down on the survivors and asked how they had let the demon escape. The rookie explained that the enemy was far too strong. The bald man questioned if they had really been wiped out and noted that the team leader was supposedly level 7. Then they asked what kind of ability the demon had. The rookie said the crystal on its forehead acted like a mirror, allowing it to copy abilities. At that moment, the demon fired a rain of crystal spikes at Han, impaling him completely. He realized the creature had used the exact same ability he had just manifested. Looking closer, he confirmed that the mirror on its forehead reflected his actions. He made a hand gesture, and the demon imitated him. It was as if he was facing himself. Even in pain, Han ran to help his mother. She had a knee injury, and he knew the yellow dust that healed fighters had no effect on civilians. His mother tried to focus on him, worried about his wounds, but he brushed it off, saying he was fine. Deep down, he knew he had to protect her at all costs. He told her to hide with her friend. He was a public servant now, a protector of civilians, and promised he would be back soon. With a burst of strength, he grabbed the demon and hurled it off the cliff, falling along with it. The impact was brutal, but the yellow dust regenerated his body. Even injured, he knew all he needed to do was keep the demon away from his mother. If he bought enough time, reinforcements might arrive. Meanwhile, at Task Force headquarters, agents were observing the situation and were shocked. There were now several mirror demons spread across the area. One of the agents, the one with the bowl-cut hair, asked which one they should attack first. Another explained that the monster had probably copied the cloning ability from the leader of the previous team and was now multiplying endlessly. The bald man reminded them that if they killed the original, all the clones would disappear, but no one could tell which was the real one. One agent got annoyed and decided to kill them all indiscriminately, while another thought the approach was excessive, commenting that the original probably wasn't even there. In fact, the real demon was fighting Han. Even under attack, it stayed alive. Han noticed the creature healed far too quickly. Suddenly, the demon copied his mother's voice. That made Han explode with rage, firing all his crystals at it, but he missed badly. The demon counterattacked and struck Han's shoulder. He fought back with everything he had, and finally hit one of the crystals into the creature's body. However, the demon simply pulled the crystal out and healed instantly. Han began to despair. He understood that they had the same ability, but the creature regenerated much faster. Then he remembered Kang's words. That day, when he was lying defeated on the ground, Han had admitted to her that he didn't think he was cut out for the battlefield. Kang told him that the fear of getting hurt was normal, but with yellow dust, they could heal during the fight. Han replied that it still hurt, which made her furious. She explained that if he really wanted to kill a demon, he would have to cut off its neck and stop it from producing more yellow dust. She also said that his powers might not be lethal, and for that reason, he could end up in a support role. Even so, Kang stated that no one healed faster than him. And now, thanks to his Devour ability, Han finally had an offensive power. Remembering those words, he regained his determination. When the demon began climbing toward him, Han knew there was only one way to win. He had to land a hit. He tried again, but missed. Then he decided that, since he couldn't aim, he would go for a direct attack. He grabbed one of the crystals tightly, as if it were a knife, and charged at the monster to stab it with his own hands. Han held the improvised knife in his teeth and grabbed the demon frog's neck. Even barely able to breathe, he climbed the cliff with the creature until he slammed it to the ground. His body was weak, but he knew he had to use his Devour ability. It was the only way to win. However, the demon was faster and struck first. Even so, Han managed to retaliate, stabbing the knife into the creature's neck, but he was so weakened that he nearly passed out. That's when he noticed something terrifying. The demon had copied his Devour ability. That meant Han was no longer healing like before. Then he remembered one of his training sessions with Kang. During that training, she confronted him about his panic attacks. He had fainted several times and confessed that, in stressful situations, he felt a tightness in his chest, so strong it felt like he would die. Kang explained that this was yet another reason to keep fighting. If he didn't face that fear, he would truly die. She told him he was the last line of defense. If he failed, other people would die. High up on the mountain, his mother was desperately looking for him. Han knew he couldn't fail. He couldn't die there, because if he died, his mother would also be in danger. Driven by that determination, he charged furiously at the mirror demon. He held a crystal as if it were a knife, but instead of attacking directly, he threw the crystal into the air. He used it to trap the enemy, and then drew all the floating crystals back into his own body. They pierced both Han and the demon. In the end, the monster's head was torn off, and the fight was over. Although wounded and with crystals stuck all over his body, Han was alive. Meanwhile, at the central office, one of the operators noticed that the demon's clones were disappearing. That meant the original had been killed. A bald man, intrigued, wanted to know who had been responsible for killing it. At the same time, Han was surprised to realize he was still healing. He thought that this time, he really wouldn't survive, but now that he was alive, he had to find his mother. Suddenly, a memory surfaced in his mind, his father telling him to eat. Han didn't understand why he thought of that at that moment, but he concluded that the mirror demon had a valuable power. If he absorbed that power, he would be stronger when the day of prophecy came. So, even with disgust, Han ate the flesh of the defeated enemy. He decided he would do the same with any powerful demon that appeared. Later, Han was at the hospital beside his mother. She wondered if she had fainted on the mountain, since she didn't remember anything. Han was relieved to realize she had no memory of the demon. He then told her he didn't want her climbing mountains anymore. She replied that she had only been looking for his father. For Han, that was nothing new. His father had disappeared in the mountains, and now he knew it had been because of a demon. The memory had returned. He saw his own father being devoured by a huge, evil creature. That scene, once buried deep in his subconscious, came back with force. His mother asked how he was feeling, and if work was hard. Han said she didn't need to worry because he was getting used to it. Then, he went back to work. At his workplace, Jiwon asked where he had been the day before. Yoseok quickly answered with sarcasm, saying he had run away scared. When Han tried to apologize, Kang cut in, saying she had sent him home because he wasn't feeling well. That was all. Jiwon was outraged at Kang's attitude, asking if she thought it was right to make decisions without telling anyone, as if the others didn't matter. Kang replied by asking if she really thought she was being left out. The argument was interrupted by an alarm. It was a level 2 threat alert. Kang said they would deal with it later and declared that this time Han would participate. Everyone was surprised by that decision. Later, during the climb up the mountain, Han apologized to Kang, thinking she had gotten into trouble because of him. But Kang took the blame, saying she had said bad things. She then asked why he had come back. Han explained that he now felt ready. At that moment, a new demon appeared. It was a large, fat creature, flexing its muscles in a strange way. Despite its odd appearance, Kang warned them not to underestimate it, even if it was only level 2. After all, the mountain group had been defeated by a level 5 demon. Han wondered if the demon he defeated the day before had really been the one causing the problem. Yoseok commented that the Soul team had shown up and taken care of the mountain demon, saying that level 7 hunters were incredible. But Han knew the truth. He was the one who had killed the monster. He couldn't tell anyone, since everyone thought he had gone home. Deep down, he wanted the credit for it. While the new demon kept flexing its muscles, Han stepped in front of the group and said he would fight it himself. Someone tried to stop him, saying he was only level 1 and would end up dead. But Han was determined. He activated the ability he had copied from the mirror demon to absorb the new enemy's power. However, the fat demon's ability was unexpected. It made its body release an extremely foul stench. The smell was so strong it even affected Han's own allies, leaving everyone disoriented. Han's stinking ability even affected his teammates. Kang fainted from the smell, and Han realized it wasn't working as he had hoped. Instead of defeating the enemy, he was knocking out his own team. Even so, he charged at the demon in the most pathetic way possible. To his surprise, the smell actually worked. The monster collapsed, knocked out by the unbearable odor. Han was shocked, but also relieved. It had worked. Even so, his companions weren't exactly impressed. Later, they were all washing themselves in a nearby river, trying to get rid of the stench. Kang, now recovered, asked if Han's ability could absorb powers from other demons. He confirmed, explaining that he had used the mirror demon's technique, which allowed him to copy other abilities. That was why he had been able to use the enemy's own power against it. While they were washing, Yoseok tried to mimic Han's fighting pose, mocking the situation and saying it had been a cringe attack. Han admitted it had indeed been kind of weird, but Kang disagreed, saying he had done well. She admitted, however, that she thought it was disgusting that he had eaten the previous demon. Still, she told him he could rest while they took care of the remains. A bit embarrassed, Han wondered if the monster's power was really just stinking. It was embarrassing to think about, but his thoughts were interrupted by the unexpected arrival of an important man, the director Ildo from the Soul Office. He appeared before Han and asked if he was really the one who had defeated the level 5 demon on the mountain, even though he was classified as level 1. Han, who was nearby, thought it strange that the director would ask that kind of question. Ildo explained that he was from the famous Soul Office, known for housing the best of the best. He then made a direct offer he wanted Han to join him. Intrigued, Han asked why he was being chosen. The director said he had a talent for recognizing potential. To him, Han had it. When the director returned to the office, Young wanted to know where he had been. Ildo said he had been talking to an interesting rookie. Young thought he was talking about his own son, Seonwoo Eden, but the director made it clear he wasn't. His son hadn't spoken to him since the divorce from his mother. He was talking about another rookie, someone who had caught his attention. Young then asked if the director thought the recent demon appearances were connected to these rookies. Ildo said yes. His instincts told him something was wrong. Meanwhile, in another isolated and dark place, a new creature was beginning to emerge. Back at the task force office, Han was still trying to process the fact that he had received an offer from the Soul Office. It was an honor, but it also meant facing much more dangerous demons. Maybe he wasn't ready. For now, he thought it best to prioritize his own safety and stay where he was. Even so, he felt proud to finally be recognized, but he was soon interrupted by Seonwoo, who showed up arrogantly, telling Han to drop that attitude. He said it was already too good for someone like him, a lifelong nobody and failure, to have gotten a job like that. According to Seonwoo, Han's gaze was starting to look scary. Annoyed, Han shot back, asking if Seonwoo was jealous for not getting the same offer. He didn't like being called a nobody. Seonwoo insisted that Han had only won because the demon had an unbearable stench. Han was shocked. How did he know that? Then he realized Yoseok had spread the gossip to everyone. Even the team leader already knew. That's when Jiwoo stepped in, asking them to stop making fun of him. She said Han had made great progress, going from someone who hid in the bathroom to the one who defeated a demon. It was meant as a compliment, but Han felt more insulted than proud. Among everyone, Kang seemed to be the only one who didn't care about the controversy. She was always impartial. Han thought everyone saw him as an idiot. Still, he eagerly awaited the call from the Soul Office director. He wanted to start over there, with a new purpose. Later, when Kang announced a new alarm, Seonwoo said he would go this time. He was tired of the boredom. He asked if Han wanted to come along after all. Rookies should stick together. And so, only the two of them set out on the new mission. Seonwoo was excited to kill a demon, but Han just wanted the moment to pass quickly. He couldn't wait for the director's call. During patrol, Seonwoo pointed to a house high on the mountain. It was partially covered by yellow dust. He went straight in, saying the place had already been invaded. Han noticed the house looked abandoned, but warned they didn't know where the demon could be. It was better to be cautious. Impatient, Seonwoo said, the enemy must be behind one of the doors. It was locked, and Han suggested it was better not to force it. But Seonwoo ignored the warning, saying if it didn't open, he'd break it. He tried brute force, and ended up breaking one of his own fingers in the process with no result. The door remained intact. Watching all this, Han wondered where his confidence was now. Then Seonwoo peeked through the keyhole and saw the demon hiding in the corner of the room. Han also looked and found it strange. The monster seemed weak for hiding. But Seonwoo pointed out that the smoke surrounding the place was level 7, which meant extreme danger. Han was stunned. A level 7 demon in Ganghwa? That was absurd. Seonwoo, on the other hand, was even more thrilled at the thought of a real fight. Han wondered what was wrong with his head. They were in real danger. They needed to call reinforcements immediately. He tried to leave but discovered the door was locked. All exits were sealed. Han began to understand the demon was keeping the place shut on purpose. Meanwhile, Seonwoo was banging on the door, demanding a worthy fight. He wanted to go all out against the monster. Han, desperate, was trying in every way to open that damn door. He didn't want to be trapped there with a level 7 demon. It was a real nightmare. That's when the demon began using its ability. It replicated its own body, creating terrifying copies. Seonwoo had already broken all his fingers trying to open the door, but it still didn't budge. He wondered what the door was made of. Nothing seemed to work. Han tried opening it using a chair, but not even the window would break. He began to believe everything inside was indestructible, and suspected that a demon's power had locked them all in. The feeling of claustrophobia took over, and his panic attacks started to return. 2 hours passed before he began to wonder if the team had forgotten about them. At the office, the leader announced the situation was an emergency, but Jiwoo questioned how he could forget there was a training conference in Busan. In reality, everyone was busy making files, not rescuing the team. At that moment, Kang managed to toss a flash drive to the leader, who ran off toward the conference. Jiwoo commented that now they could relax, have some coffee, and enjoy a moment of peace. However, Yoseok noticed that 3 hours had passed and asked if it wasn't time for those two to return. Jiwoo said that was why they didn't send two rookies on missions like that. Kang volunteered to go ahead, even after being warned about the danger of the location. She told them not to worry and set off. When the whole team entered the house, the two inside ran to ask that the door not be shut, but it still closed. Han asked why they had come in, and Jiwoo wanted to know what had happened. Later, when Jiwoo learned that the demon was trapped inside that room, Kang told everyone to step back. She tried attacking the door with her blood katana, but nothing happened. Then Jiwoo used her demon spider ability to try to get in through the keyhole, but the creature was too big to pass. Jiwoo lamented that her baby hadn't made it, and Han found it strange. She treated a monster like a child. Seonwoo asked Yoseok to show his powers, but he said he didn't have any offensive ones. Han asked if that meant he was useless in the field. Yoseok reminded him that he had the power to copy abilities and told Han to use it, but Han said he couldn't see the demon because it was too far away. Meanwhile, Seonwoo asked if there was anyone in the office who could help, and Yoseok mentioned Officer Kim. However, Kim was already inside, having come in to check on the delay. He had such a discreet presence that no one had noticed. He looked through the keyhole, peeked under the door, and ended up simply falling asleep right there. Han couldn't believe he was really sleeping. Jiwoo commented she had never seen Officer Kim's powers, and Han began to wonder how the whole team could be so useless. They thought of new ways to open the door, but Seonwoo said they had already tried everything. Jiwoo insisted they couldn't give up, but someone suggested waiting for the captain the next day. Han was alarmed at the idea of spending the night locked in with the creature. Yoseok found it strange that the demon wasn't attacking, since they usually take the first opportunity to kill. Suddenly, a tremor shook the house. Kang ran toward the bedroom as everyone noticed cracks spreading along the walls. Seonwoo concluded that the demon was closing the house in on itself to ensure that only it would survive. Han thought that if they didn't act quickly, they would be crushed, and he wondered what they would do. Then the scene shifted to 4 years in the past. Kang was going to visit her grandmother, who lived in a mountain house surrounded by a vegetable garden. At night, her brother said he hoped they could all live together in the future, and asked her to visit them often. She noticed a drawing on the wall, and remarked that their grandmother would be angry if she saw it. But her brother explained that their grandmother loved the drawing, treating it like a family portrait. Over time, the drawing began to fade, covered by yellow dust. When the present situation overlapped with the memory, Kang became furious and summoned her blood blade, driving it into the cracks to stop the house from closing. However, the blade began to break. She used more blood, putting all her strength into it, but Han pulled her away before she was crushed. She didn't want to lose those memories, but she ended up fainting from blood loss. Han explained that she had lost a lot of blood and asked what had happened. Jiwoo said that this was Kang's grandmother's house, and in the past, her brother and grandmother had been killed by a demon. Kang only survived because she absorbed its powers. Yoseok remarked that at least the house hadn't been completely destroyed, leaving space and time for them to act. Jiwoo warned that they needed to get out before the walls closed again, reminding them that slow and steady was still the best approach. Later, they began to dig into the wall with a knife, but Seonwoo said it was useless. Everyone was exhausted. Seonwoo passed the turn to Han, but he complained about hunger, thirst, and arm pain. Kang, however, stood up and decided to continue, scratching at the wall with determination. Trying to make conversation, Han commented that now he understood this really was her grandmother's house, and wondered how an abandoned place could be so clean and well kept, concluding that it had to be Kang's doing. Kang explained that she had been waiting for the demon that killed her family to return to this place. At that moment, she realized that this enemy was different from the others. It seemed to be manipulated by another, even more dangerous demon. She said it was intelligent, with a clear goal and purpose, and that it wasn't in this world just to kill like the rest. This demon had spoken of a prophecy. It would return in a year with an army of demons. Han wanted to know why she was on the Ganghwa Island team, despite having a level 7 ability. Kang asked if he disapproved of her only caring about demons because of her family. He replied that he didn't care, that he wasn't there for honor or justice, and that the pay wasn't bad either. Kang commented that in that case, he should join the CU office, where the pay was better. Surprised, Han asked how she knew, and she replied that she had overheard his conversation with the others that day. He said he hadn't decided yet, but Kang assured him he would do well there. Suddenly, the house began to move again, and everyone rushed to the walls to avoid being crushed. Han, however, was curious about what Kang was going to say, but there was no time. The next morning, the house moved again. Now, they were trapped in a narrow corridor. Officer Kim was still asleep, which annoyed Han, since everyone else was trying to escape while he rested. When Kim finally got up, there was something strange about his face. He announced that now the demon would come out. The door opened and the creature ran outside. Han asked what power he had used, and Kim explained that he had spread mold spores through the lock. His power took a long time to take effect, which was why it was almost never useful, but in that case it had worked. There was no time for complaints. Several other demons emerged from the room. Han realized it wasn't a lone demon but an entire gang, all level 7. When the attack began, Kang ordered Jess to protect the team with her invisibility field, hiding them all. Meanwhile, Kang did the heavy work, cutting down enemies with her blade. However, after killing the first one, her sword got stuck in the wall due to the tight space, leaving an opening for one of the demons to attack. Han appeared to bite the creature's neck, but before dying it activated its power, causing the ceiling to start lowering. Yosok warned they would be crushed. To stop it, Han used his mirror demon power, halting the ceiling. The pose he struck looked odd, but Yosok said the important thing was that it worked. The problem was Han could no longer move. Sionwoo appeared, breaking the neck of another demon that was about to attack him, and told him to hide in the barrier. However, Sionwoo was also surrounded by several enemies, and ended up being protected by the giant spider Jiwoo had summoned. Yoseok told Sionwoo to help Kang, while he and 2 others worked on the structure to prevent collapse. Kang and Sionwoo fought against the horde, but Jiwoo, through her spider senses, noticed more demons approaching. Hearing this, Han ran out of the barrier and said he needed to get into the room quickly. The path was cleared for him, and he jumped inside, finding the original demon hiding the whole time, while the others fought. He promised that if that was what the creature wanted, it would stay there forever. He then used his power to bring the ceiling down, but he would have been crushed as well if Sionwoo hadn't pulled him out just in time. When the creature was destroyed, the fight ended. The team praised Han's power, and Yoseok commented that it was the opposite of Fetter's embarrassed. Han thanked them. Meanwhile, Kang remembered the memories tied to that house. Han thought that with the demon dead, he could no longer use the mirror power unless he ate the creature's flesh. Seeing him, Sionwoo asked what he was doing, and found it disgusting. But Han noticed there was still dust in the house, and used his power to restore part of it. It wasn't perfect, but Kang thanked him because she could once again see the drawing that held so many memories. Later, when Dekman returned, he found no one there. He then received a call from Director Hildo, who said he had invited one of the rookies, Han Maru, to his office, but Han had refused. He asked if Dekman knew why. He replied that maybe it was because Han felt at home there, since the whole team was sleeping together. The next day didn't start well. Han was being cut and divided into several pieces. Then it was explained what had happened 7 hours earlier. He was in a hurry to get to work, exhausted from the fight against the house demon. When Sionwoo drove by, Han remembered the moment his friend had helped him, and asked for a ride, but got an insult in response. Watching him drive away, Han commented that the car was nice, and wondered how a public servant could have something like that, concluding that Sionwoo had the worst attitude of all. In the end, Han still wondered who that guy really was. It was Yoseok who remarked that Sionwoo seemed like the kind of man who, on paper, is handsome, stylish, skilled at everything, and rich, but in the end is just someone with no friends. Han thought that, in truth, he envied him, and Yoseok felt the same way. When they arrived exhausted, Deokman said their level 7 had finally arrived. Han asked what he meant by that, and Jiwoo congratulated him after all. He had devoured the flesh of an S-level demon, which granted him its ability. Deokman patted Han on the shoulder, saying he had gone from rookie to someone with many responsibilities. Han thought that being recognized was nice, and Yoseok commented that his devouring power was incredible. He was the only one who could keep getting stronger, but Sionwoo was clearly irritated and jealous, told everyone to shut up because he wanted to work. Han wondered why he was so bothered, since he hadn't even been saying anything. Kang approached and asked if he had a moment to talk. Later, outside, while drinking a soda, she thanked him for what he had done at her grandmother's house. Han said it was nothing, since they were a team, but Kang admitted she still wasn't sure what she had felt when she first saw him. This made Han wonder if she meant she had felt something for him, but she explained that she actually found it strange that he was classified as level 1. He had an incredible healing power, and also the ability to devour demon flesh, to acquire their powers, something far above level 1. Then Kang asked him to think carefully. Had he never encountered a demon before becoming a special public officer? Han was confused, but then he remembered something. A figure, like an illusion illusion, had appeared and tried to kill him, just as it had with his father. He thought maybe it had just been another panic attack. He said he sometimes saw those things, but Kang held his hand and told him she was there with him, that he was safe. Deep down, she thought there was something very strange about his past. At that moment, Deokman appeared and asked if they were having a workplace date. Han quickly denied it, and Kang said it was obvious they weren't. She explained that everyone would be dead in a year, so there was no reason for romance and that she had no interest in him. The words hit Han like a stab to the heart, and he theatrically fell back onto the bench. Deokman commented that he had just been rejected, and Han, despite that, admitted to himself that he felt something different when he was around her. Later, Jiwoo assigned the patrol teams, and Han ended up paired with Kang. He felt awkward because of the captain's comment, while she stayed focused on the checks. Han thought she was right. There was no time for distractions. If they wanted to survive, they had to focus only on the demons. If they could communicate with them, maybe they would learn more. Suddenly, they received an emergency call. Yosok said there was a problem in District 3, which happened to be the direction they were heading. The call cut out. Kang tensed and asked if the demon had defeated the captain a level 10. Han was shocked to learn his rank, and Kang said the enemy was coming their way. The fog arrived and, from it, emerged a demon with a hole in the middle of its head, greeting the two of them. Surprised, they wondered if it was speaking. The demon said it was a pleasure to meet them, and asked if they could talk. Han found the idea strange, but Kang recognized the demon language, and heard it say there was no need for hostility, it didn't want to fight, only to talk. Han asked what about, and the demon replied that it had come from the abyss, the depths of hell, where those who committed the worst sins were cast. There, they fought eternally amid carnage. When Han asked if it meant that demons had once been people, the demon confirmed it. This shocked him, as he realized he had been devouring the other people. The disgust was so great that he vomited. The demon asked if it could pose a question, but Kang interrupted, reminding it that it had already attacked their companions. The demon asked her to stop, saying that killing it would not avenge her brother's death. It claimed that, in truth, his death had been her fault. It told her that her brother had stepped in front of an attack to save her, and she had survived at the cost of his life. It said it should have been the other way around, her protecting her brother. Kang didn't drop to her knees from guilt or shock, but because a blade had pierced her heart. Han wondered when that had happened, since he hadn't seen it. Could it be that her heart had been wounded by its words? The demon asked if it could continue the conversation, but Han told it to shut up. Without hesitation, Han delivered a punch so strong that it knocked out several of the creature's teeth. The demon then stated that he had been rejected by her, and immediately stopped moving. It was as if those words directly affected his body. Han felt a pang in his heart, as though the phrases were invisible blades, turning emotions into physical pain, leaving unseen cuts across his body. Even so, Han said that hadn't broken his heart, since he didn't feel attracted to Kang. Meanwhile, her heart was literally torn apart by guilt. Her younger brother had died because of her. Han then realized the enemy's ability, words capable of cutting the heart. The demon commented that human emotions were weak, and that it had never felt anything, not even when it was human. It asked why Han wasn't responding, insinuating he had lost the ability to speak. At that moment, Han understood why his captain had been defeated, despite being level 10. The demon's ability threw feelings into such intense turmoil that the body simply stopped moving. The demon said there was no fun in a conversation without a reply, and decided to finish Han off. However, before it could, its body was brutally shattered by Seonwoo's arrival, who asked why Han was on the ground. Watching, Han thought that the team's psychopath had finally shown up. Seonwoo coldly told Han to wipe that smile off his face. The demon, in turn, mocked them, saying it had only tickled, resetting its bones in place and claiming its vocal cords were extremely resilient, impossible for such weak fighters to destroy. Faced with the threat, Han and Seonwoo joined forces, furious. It was rare for the two to get along, but against a demon, that always happened. Han warned Seonwoo about the enemy's ability to use memories and guilt to cause heart attacks, but Seonwoo dismissed the warning, calling him a rookie. Irritated, Han thought he was worse than the demon itself, but still hoped he could defeat it. When Seonwoo broke the enemy's leg, the demon taunted him, saying that this was why his famous father would never respect him. Seonwoo kept destroying the enemy's body, which didn't even feel pain, until he heard the demon suggest that, like him, Seonwoo had little emotion. It reminded him that Seonwoo's mother had taken her own life after her husband abandoned her. Han was surprised. He had always thought Seonwoo was just a spoiled rich kid, but Seonwoo didn't waver and replied that it wasn't his fault his mother was weak. Only the strong survived. The demon then claimed that he would not survive because he was weaker than Han Maru. Those words almost got to him, but Han intervened, blocking the blade aimed at Seonwoo's heart. That was when Han discovered the trick. The words didn't cause direct damage. They only served to distract the opponent and create an opening for the real attack. Soon, Kang appeared and cut off the enemy's blade-like tongue, asking if they were okay. Han thought she was amazing and beautiful, but pushed the thought aside. He told Seonwoo to get back in the fight, but Seonwoo still seemed stuck on the taunt about being weaker than Han Maru. Irritated, Han began kicking kicking him to get him up. He said Xianwu was good, but Xianwu was better. Pleased with the compliment, Xianwu stood. Kang warned that they needed to finish off the demon before it got dark. Han asked what the plan was, since they couldn't get close easily because of the silver tongue. Kang replied that the opening would come when the enemy stopped talking. At that moment, Xianwu noticed that Kang's wound wasn't healing because of the yellow dust. Han concluded that they needed to kill the enemy so Kang could recover. He ran, luring the demon toward him, hoping the tongue would target him. Han announced he would use his new power, but Xianwu reminded him that the ability only worked in enclosed spaces. Kang said she was fine, and told Xianwu to help Han. With no buildings nearby, Han realized they needed to get to the city. That was when Xianwu showed up in a car, offering an improvised ride. Han jumped onto the sunroof and kept taunting the enemy, who attacked with its tongue. At the right moment, Han and Xianwu trapped the demon inside the car. Even so, Han was struck, and his body was torn apart. The enemy celebrated until it realized it was being grabbed by multiple clones of Han. As the demon was being devoured, Xianwu complained that they needed to get out of there, and wondered why Han wasn't getting out of the car. Kang arrived, asking where Han was. Trying to buy time, the enemy said they could talk, and asked if Han had always been as violent as his father. The memory came instantly, the day he was dragged into the forest by his father. The demon asked how Han had felt when his father disappeared, suggesting it must have been a relief. To avoid hearing more, Han burst his own eardrums and ordered the demon to stop meddling with people's hearts. Before the enemy could counterattack, Han shut the demon's mouth and began crushing the car, using the creature's own power. Kang tried to get closer, but Xianwu told her not to hurt herself. Inside the vehicle, something was completely crushed, and the next moment, the yellow dust in the air vanished. The demon was dead, but they still needed to get Han out. Xianwu believed there was no way he could have survived that, but Kang insisted he could. She knew Han had a high healing capacity, and that they needed to rescue him before the dust disappeared. Xianwu also began searching, grumbling that the idiot had crushed himself along with the car. Meanwhile, Han seemed trapped in his subconscious, unable to feel his own body. He thought he couldn't see the chatty demon anymore, and that maybe he had already killed it. However, before dying, the creature had told him something about the abyss. The demon claimed that the abyss was looking for Han, and he didn't understand what it meant. Shortly after, it ordered Han to wake up for real. Upon waking, Han saw the same demon emerging from within him. The creature asked if he remembered what happened the day his father dragged him into the forest. In the memory, the two came face to face with that same monster. Han told his father they should run, but he refused, saying he needed the demon's special power to reach the abyss. Without hesitation, the man threw his own son in front of the creature to force it to attack. In the present, Xianwu used his power to break a finger and open the car. When they saw Han, his body was completely crushed and destroyed. Xianwu said it was too late, since there was no more yellow dust to heal him. But Kang still had hope, and she was right. Han reacted. To everyone's surprise, he himself began producing yellow dust, as if he were a demon, healing completely. He stood up as if nothing had happened, leaving them both shocked. The next second, he collapsed to the ground for a nap, and Xianwu began kicking him, asking what was wrong. He explained that the yellow dust was part of Han's devouring ability. That was when Han remembered. He hadn't acquired this ability recently. In fact, he had received it when he was still a child, from something his father had done to him, without telling him the reason. Suddenly, Han collapsed again, and Xianwu didn't understand why. Kang realized it was a panic attack and decided that what happened there would stay between them. Xianwu, however, said the boy was half monster, and that they should report it to headquarters. Kang replied that they still didn't know why the yellow dust had come out of him. Xianwu asked what they would do if Han became a dangerous demon, but Kang said she trusted him. Xianwu replied that he didn't care what happened, and Kang wondered if she should trust him. Later, on the subway, Han was exhausted and sad. He questioned whether he could become a monster. Looking at his reflection in the mirror, he got startled, turned, and was startled again, catching Yoseok's attention, who scolded him. Han apologized, saying he had seen something scary. He had something to ask Yoseok, but Yoseok said no before even hearing it, explaining that he didn't talk to coworkers outside of work. Han was confused, since Yoseok was the only person he felt comfortable talking to besides Kang. Shortly after, Yoseok received a call from a friend and was later at a bar, telling him to leave the Gyeeng Mountain team and request a transfer. The friend asked who was next to him, and Yoseok commented that he hadn't invited him either, questioning why Han was there. Drunk, Han replied that he didn't want to be alone. He said it was his first time meeting a special servant from another team and wanted to know why the friend wanted to leave. Wooju explained that some teams could be very difficult. Yoseok asked if they were making fun of him, and Han wanted to know if workplace bullying really existed. Wooju commented that Wooju was too kind to react to it, and that all he needed to do was quit and get fired, just like he himself had done. Surprised, Han asked if Wooju had once been part of that team. He confirmed it and revealed that, in the beginning, he had been the main target target of mockery. Han found it all ridiculous and wondered what kind of people made up that group. Yoseok said that group was made up of human trash, just horrible people. He knew that in the special public service there were many bad people, and some were just as dangerous as the demons themselves. Han then remembered what Seonwoo had said about the possibility of him becoming a demon, and wondered if that could happen. Later, Han was carrying Wooju up the stairs, and asked how much longer until they arrived. Yoseok replied that they were already near Wooju's parents' restaurant. Wooju, weak, said they could leave him in the back. But as soon as Yoseok entered the place, he ran into that team of despicable people. The big man commented that they were looking for Wooju and had found Yoseok instead. Without hesitation, he kicked him in the stomach, saying Yoseok should have just transferred quietly, but he had ruined everything before leaving the team. Han, confused, asked why they were working on the same side. The redhead wanted to know who he was, and Han replied that he worked with Yoseok in the same office. The redhead mocked him, asking if it was a team full of losers, and quickly knocked Han down with a punch before returning to beating Yoseok, saying that his parents probably regretted bringing him into the world. At that moment, Han stood up furiously, yellow dust starting to come out of his nose. The redhead kept attacking, saying they had spent months in probation because of Yoseok, and that now he would kill him so no one would ever find the body. All the others watched, smiling. Suddenly, the door opened, and someone kicked the redhead in the face. It was Seonwoo, who announced he was also part of that team. He threatened Han, saying that if he released that yellow mist there, he would kill him. Han covered his mouth and asked what Seonwoo was doing there. He replied that he had been following him to avoid trouble with that yellow dust. Soon, Kang also appeared, revealing she had been following Han along with Seonwoo. Kang asked what was going on, and said she wasn't sure why they were attacking her team, but that they wouldn't get away with it. One of the women from the other team taunted that their friend was almost dead, and that they wouldn't let that go. Another member commented that they had unfinished business with Yoseok. Kang threatened to take the matter to headquarters, and the woman replied that they were the victims. The redhead, however, stood up, saying they weren't leaving, and a fight began. Han wanted to help Seonwoo, but Kang stopped him, warning that he couldn't transform there or he would cause a disaster. When Seonwoo was about to be hit with a chair, Kang struck the redhead in the face with a broom and hit another enemy in the shin with the handle. She warned them to stop if they didn't want to get hurt. At that moment, the captain of the Guyang Mountain team appeared, asking what was going on. For a moment, Kang felt relieved and explained that their group had attacked without reason, but the captain struck her in the face, knocking her down. He asked how they dared attack his team and greeted Yoseok, saying it had been a while since they'd seen each other. Seeing Kang on the ground, Han became furious. Seonwoo tried to stop him, but it was too late. In the blink of an eye, the captain was thrown against the wall with his face covered in blood. Han was releasing a large amount of yellow dust, frightening the other team. Yoseok asked why this was happening. Han wanted to know if Kang was okay, but she told him not to release any more dust. He apologized, saying he had gotten angry seeing her hurt. The captain regenerated thanks to the dust, and asked who had that ability. He wanted to know if Han wanted to join his team, but Han refused, saying he wouldn't stand alongside trash like them. The captain said that was a shame, but warned he couldn't let him leave after witnessing that. With the place full of yellow dust, a general fight broke out between the two teams. Han's group wondered what was wrong with those guys, as they were extremely problematic. The captain sat down, ate something, and ordered everyone to form a line for duels. He explained that they would be one-on-one fights, with 3 fighters per team. If they won, they would take Yoseok back, but if they lost, they would forgive what he had done. The captain referred to Han as a human demon, and said headquarters would certainly be interested in his ability to create yellow dust. He promised to keep it secret if Han fought. Kang said there was no reason to accept, but Seonwoo asked if he could hit him. She replied no, because it would trigger a chain reaction and turn the place into chaos. The captain insisted it would be a friendly match, with victory going to whoever surrendered first, as long as no one was killed. Han, Kang, and Seonwoo thought the man was completely insane, but Seonwoo admitted he liked the idea because he wanted to fight another ability user. Han complained it would make them just like that despicable team, but Kang agreed with Seonwoo, saying they needed to fight and drag out the matches as long as possible. When asked why, she said they would understand later. She then asked who would go first, and Seonwoo volunteered. The next to fight Seonwoo was a man with glasses who, upon revealing his demon eye, showed that he was actually there to detect abilities. He revealed that Seonwoo was an effigy user, able to break his own bones to attack the opponent. The big redhead decided to fight him, and transformed his body into a grotesque mix of branches and demonic muscles. Seonwoo, however, simply snapped a finger, breaking all the tentacles coming at him, and asked if that was all. The redhead replied that he could control even the broken limbs, and quickly immobilized Seonwoo, trapping him inside a cocoon of branches. He mocked him, asking what he would do now and if it wasn't better to just surrender. Seonwoo coldly replied that he could still break one stupid little thing, and without hesitation, he broke his own teeth to grab the enemy's neck. He asked which part he should break first. He started with the spine, leaving the redhead paralyzed, and then threatened the neck. Before he could complete the move, Kang intervened, ordering him not to kill anyone. The fight was already won. The redhead fell to the ground, vomiting from the pain. The captain, slightly disappointed, asked who would be next. As she passed Seonwoo, Kang commented that he hadn't stalled long enough. He retorted that he had stalled as much as he could. The skill evaluator announced the next fighter, Kang, classified as an iron demon, capable of creating swords from her own blood. The opponent sent in was a muscular woman, considered the perfect match for her. The woman tore out her own ribs, turning them into blades and forming a skeletal spider exoskeleton. Kang tried to avoid using weapons, saying it could be dangerous, but the opponent didn't care. As soon as she advanced, Kang was forced to create her blood katana. She blocked the frontal attacks with ease, but the spider-like bone legs struck her flanks. Kang quickly identified the attack pattern and, with a precise blow, hit the opponent in the center. The woman fell severely injured and had to be rescued. Kang apologized, saying she had been trying to go easy. Seonwoo congratulated her for buying time, and Han commented that those 10 seconds had felt like an eternity to him. Kang admitted she had never fought humans before, only demons. The evaluator, shaken, realized he had underestimated the group. The captain then asked if Han Maru was the only one left, and Kang replied that 2 had already lost on his side. But the captain insisted, saying he wanted to see Han fight, and proposed that this fight be worth 3 points. Kang refused, but Han accepted on the condition that he face the captain himself. Han's team thought he was crazy. When the evaluator approached to detect his abilities, the demon in Han's eye exploded his eyeball. He wondered if Han was even human, and what kind of entity was inside him. The captain said that went against the rules, and that it would be better for Han to face the best in his team. At that moment, Wooju was brought in by the captain, who revealed that his parents had already gone home. He said that if Wooju fought, he would allow his transfer. Yoseok tried to intervene, telling them to stop, but the captain told him to shut up and promised to deal with him later. He then ordered Han to face Wooju, the strongest. Confused, Han began to feel the power of the last demon he had devoured, the talkative one. A flood of insults filled his mind, each capable of hitting the target's memories and emotions. He was also analyzing Wooju's and Yoseok's memories and had to hold back from speaking. However, instinctively, the demon's bladed tongue slipped from his mouth and began insulting Wooju on its own. The effect was immediate. Wooju was struck right in his emotional core. Han apologized, saying the power acted on its own, but Wooju also apologized and unleashed his own power, that of a poisonous demon, covering Han's body in acid. Kang almost intervened, but the captain stopped her, saying it was against the rules. He then asked Han if it hurt a lot or not. The venom was slowly corroding his bones and organs, but Han said he wouldn't give up. The captain told him to stop wasting time and show his power, saying that if he really wanted to win, he should attack now, because that was the rule to win the game. Han replied that he didn't care about the rules, and declared he would hit the captain himself. The captain, however, insisted he follow the game's rules. That's when Han applied his power, multiplied by 8, knocking everyone in the room to the ground with the pressure. Someone complained they could barely breathe, but Yoseok, who knew the technique to resist, explained they needed to breathe short and light. He knew the captain had the power of the gravity demon. The captain praised Han's resilience, finding him interesting for recovering so quickly from the venom. Then he increased the gravity on him even more. The pressure was so intense it broke Han's entire spine. The captain noticed that the more pain Han felt, the denser the dust he produced, concluding his demonic power must be special. Han, however, decided to think about that later. First, he had to deal with the situation. He tried to use the language demon to attack, but realized there was nothing that could emotionally affect the captain, who seemed to be a psychopath. The captain, annoyed at not fully understanding the situation, decided to explore Han a bit, considering attacking his lungs and throat. At that moment, his knife broke because Han fractured his own finger to escape. Kang rushed in with a blade made of blood, but the captain applied 20 times the gravity, knocking everyone out. He explained that with increased gravity, the brain stops receiving blood and the person loses consciousness. The captain took Kang's knife and said they would have some fun. Han was about to fully pass out when someone knocked at the restaurant door. The captain wondered who could show up at that time. A black slime began to invade the place, and Kang recognized that reinforcements had arrived. She remembered she had asked Captain Deokman for help, who wielded the power of the darkness demon. Within moments, everyone was engulfed by the black viscous liquid. The other captain questioned the darkness, while Han realized he felt nothing, no sight, no hearing, no other sense, as if he didn't exist. He began to lose his mind from the sensation, while the other captain was grabbed by the neck and slammed to the ground by Deokman, as if he were nothing. Han, still in panic, was also knocked down. Deokman then took his own eyes from his shirt pocket and put them back in place, absorbing all the darkness from the restaurant. With everyone unconscious, he commented that the dust had finally disappeared. Kang praised the feat, but the captain asked why she hadn't informed him about Han, implying she wanted to lose her job. Kang apologized and asked if he could handle another captain as an equal. Deokman replied that the situation had already gone too far. Later, Han was at the main headquarters, wondering what would happen to him. In the meeting room, Young stated that they would take charge of Han Maru, but Deokman refused to hand over his subordinate. Jong warned that Han produced yellow dust like a demon, making him extremely dangerous, and cited the damage caused to the team, questioning the risk if he used that power in front of civilians. Deokman countered that this would not happen, stating that the incident only occurred because the the Gaiyang team had attacked them. He knew that the captain of that team deliberately selected the worst people, and that the director had given a psychopath like him so much authority. Young scolded Deokman for speaking to the director that way, but Ildu said it was fine. He explained that in special service, character didn't matter, and that even psychopaths were useful against demons, unlike Theman, who avoided fights. The captain replied that the same applied to Han, as he was good at fighting demons and had good character, unlike those others. He proposed that Xianwu and Kang keep an eye on him. Ito asked what they would do if Han lost control, and Deokman said he would take responsibility. He asked to leave the meeting, but before he could, Ildu called his son, asking him to stay. Ran asked if Han would be okay, and Deokman said he would be on probation for 3 months, with everyone's salary reduced. Han was upset about losing his pay, but Deokman warned him to be grateful, reminding him that if another incident occurred, the team's credibility would be destroyed. Alone with his son, Ildu asked if Xianwu could eliminate Han should he lose control again. Xianwu was outraged, asking what kind of joke that was and saying he didn't want to hear something like that from his father after 20 years. Ildu replied that he wasn't speaking as a father, but as a director, stressing that a human who produced yellow dust was no different from a demon and could easily be an enemy. When Han arrived at a friend's house, he asked if keeping an eye on him meant this. The place was completely dirty and messy, worse than a student dorm. It was Deokman's house. Deokman explained that Han would be staying there from now on. Han asked if that was really necessary, but Deokman said yes, because it was the only way to make sure he wouldn't do anything reckless. He said they would work together, go out together, and stay together 24 hours a day. Later at the office, Jiwoo gave Han a deadly glare and warned that if he spread dust inside, she would kill him. Han told her not to bother him, saying he only released yellow mist in stressful situations. He thought it was all her fault for putting him in that situation. Kim asked if he had seen a bit of mist come out, and Daekman told Han to open his mouth, wanting to confirm how he released yellow dust so easily. Later, on his way to the bathroom, Han thought he couldn't even breathe near others. At the entrance, he ran into Xianwu, and at that moment remembered the conversation he had with his father, where it became clear that Han was dangerous and could be considered an enemy. Han asked why he was staring at him, and if he had something to say, but Xianwu replied no, which Han found strange since he would normally insult him. In the hallway, Han found Kang accompanied by Wuju, who were arriving at the office. Kang approached to look into his eyes, but Han said they didn't produce yellow dust. She explained not to take it personally, as everyone was acting cautiously, and that if it happened again, she might not be able to protect him. Han understood, but admitted it was still uncomfortable. Later, the office was empty, and Han was stuck at his desk, while everyone else went on a mission. Suddenly, 2 men appeared, the same ones from Xianwu's office. The first, a brute, punched Han in the face, saying he wanted to see the yellow dust. Han stood up, remembering Kang's warning not to release his power again. The second, a bald man, kicked his colleague in the head and apologized to Han, explaining that he had no manners. He introduced himself as Nero and said the brute was Namble. Han asked if they were from Xianwu's office and if they were there to test him. Nero confirmed, but said Namble was more of a fan than a professional. Namble said he was excited to meet the King Maru, calling him Han Maru, and declared he was better than director Ildu, with the best ability of all time. Later, Han was still dazed from the encounter when he noticed Wuju seemed nervous. He asked if something was wrong and, already on the mountain, helped his colleague, realizing the devices that measured yellow dust weren't working. Wuju apologized for not telling him earlier, explaining that he didn't want them to think he had ruined everything on the first day and start hating him. Han said the team wasn't like that and that mistakes happened, but later doubted his own words. Wuju thanked him and said he didn't have to be afraid of producing yellow dust. Han asked what he meant, and Wuju replied that the dust wasn't coming from him. A demon was staring at them. Wuju asked what they would do now, and Han realized the alert hadn't reached headquarters because of the faulty meter. He assessed that the dust was level 1 and that they could handle it. Convinced, Han charged forward, biting a piece of the demon's flesh and thinking that level 1 was easy to deal with. However, when the creature fell, the yellow dust kept appearing, revealing that it wasn't its original body. A second body emerged from within, now at level 2, and began evolving. After defeating it again, Han realized the monster was getting stronger each time. Wuju asked if he was sure they should continue, since the creature had reached level 5, and said he would call reinforcements. Han warned him not to turn his back, as the demon was already on him. Even so, he managed to defend himself using poison to burn it, but noticed the creature was changing again. Whenever it suffered fatal wounds, the demon hardened its skin, as if forming a cocoon. A stronger form began emerging from inside the cocoon. It was an evolving demon. Wuju realized it was now at level 6 and wondered how far it would go. Han noticed that small spheres on the creature's chest burst every time it evolved, which meant it could reach level 10. For him, that was too dangerous. He decided he needed to get Wuju out of there and thought about distracting the demon, while his companion went for help. Even after hearing that Han shouldn't fight a level 6 enemy alone, he assured him he was stronger than he looked, and charged without hesitation. Han knew that, because he had devoured the demon's flesh before, he could become even stronger if he suffered a fatal wound. However, the enemy easily dodged his punch and counterattacked with much greater force. Han realized he would need to evolve to defeat it, but before he could react, he was brutally struck, and his body was completely broken. He thought he had suffered a fatal wound, but he wasn't evolving. The spheres on his chest remained intact because his healing ability was so high that it wouldn't let him die. When the demon prepared to deliver the final blow, Wuju appeared to defend him and launched poison at the creature, but it had no effect. The enemy lunged at Wuju, striking him repeatedly and leaving him severely injured. Meanwhile, Han took the opportunity to devour more of the demon's flesh. Seeing Wuju's condition, he realized he was too weak and would die if he stayed. There was also no time to call for reinforcements. The demon was only 3 evolutions away from reaching level 10, and he couldn't allow that. However, his attacks barely scratched the enemy's skin. When he finally managed to wound it, he realized the demon was still in the middle of evolving. He tried to destroy it inside the cocoon, but was pierced by the arm of the creature's next form. Gravely injured, Han was thrown far away. At that moment, the demon targeted Wuju, and Han, still trapped in the cocoon, couldn't react. When he got out, he realized he was faster and stronger, but he couldn't see where Wuju was. He got a call from the captain, who asked if he had seen the level 7 alert. Han replied that he had, but said he was already dealing with another threat. The captain ordered him not to leave home, but hung up before hearing more. Han thought that at least the alert had reached headquarters. Then, he found Wuju completely covered in blood. He tried to use his yellow dust to heal him, but it didn't work. When he turned his back, something moved under the sheet, but by then he was already consumed by rage. Meanwhile, Kang was climbing the mountain. Deokman was approaching by car and told her not to fight alone until he arrived. Suddenly, an earthquake shook the mountain, felt even in the city. Kang wondered if it was level 10 dust. The captain, surprised, wanted to know if it came from their mountain. Yosok, in the subway, realized it would be a disaster if they didn't go there. Another teammate was in a taxi trying to get there, while Deokman remained stuck in traffic. Kang decided she couldn't wait for reinforcements. Entering the dust cloud, she found Han, who told her to run immediately. He said he would fight there, and she needed to escape. Kang, confused, asked for an explanation. Han said it was the demon's final evolution stage, and now it was ready to kill everything in its path. She asked if he had fought the creature until it reached level 10. Han replied that it was his responsibility to destroy it. Then, he grabbed a branch and aimed it at his own heart to provoke his death and evolve. Kang, alarmed, asked what he was doing. He explained that because he had eaten the evolving demon's flesh, if he died, he would also evolve. Kang noticed Han was different and said something had happened to him. Even so, she insisted they needed to wait for reinforcements. Han said he didn't need anyone's help, and before Kang could stop him, he drove the stake into his own heart. She then realized all the cocoons he had already been in, each one representing a time he had repeated that act. She wondered how many times he had done it, but had no time to think, because the demon charged at her. Han easily blocked the attack and tore off the creature's arm as if it were nothing. Still, the demon countered, slamming him into the ground. He barely felt pain and, taking advantage of the closeness, pulled the enemy in to bite its flesh. When the captain arrived and saw Wuju's body, he asked what was happening. Kang noticed that something had changed. This was not the Han Maru she knew. His expression was empty, as he kept beating the demon non-stop. The creature regenerated its arm and struck him, sending him tumbling down the mountain. Kang tried to rescue him, but the captain held her back, saying she wouldn't stand a chance against a level 10 demon, and they couldn't risk more victims. She wanted to know what he meant by more victims, but the captain only asked why Han Maru was there, reminding her that he had ordered him to stay home. Meanwhile, at the Seoul office, the team was in panic over the level 10 dust. Jumok-ji, commander of Inshan, reported that units had already been sent to the site and ordered Young to prepare a briefing for the director. She asked if Ildo had heard, and he said yes, noting that it had been 2 years since the last time a level 10 had appeared on that mountain. Seorak Mountain was in danger. Young added that the team assigned there had been completely wiped out and that there were many civilian casualties. Ildo said not to worry about Ganghwa Island, since the captain was there, along with a strange young man with yellow dust. Back on the mountain, the captain was shouting for Han to stop, but he remained locked in an endless fight with the evolving demon. When the two clashed fist against fist, Han's arm exploded. Deokman warned that they needed to stop him, as things had already gone too far. Then Han reacted by shoving the stump of his arm into the enemy's mouth. Deokman wondered if he was using advanced healing in that way, and confirmed it when he saw Han regenerate the limb to blow the demon's head apart from the inside. Even the captain showed disgust. Han repeated the process, eating chunks of flesh to prevent the enemy's regeneration. Kang said it was over now, since the demon could no longer recover. He had already won, but continued beating it until it was torn to pieces. The captain ordered him to stop, and Kang stepped in, cutting off the monster's head. She told Han it was okay, that it was over. At that moment, Seonwoo and Jiwoo arrived. Jiwoo asked if they had killed the demon, and Deokman replied no, that Han had defeated it alone. Seonwoo was surprised to learn he had taken down a level 10 without help. Later, Wuju's funeral was held. His parents were inconsolable, and the entire team remained silent and downcast. Yosi was especially sad. Kang asked the captain if he was okay, and he said no, that he would never get used to it. She asked how they would explain the death to the family, and Deokman said that, as always, they would say it was a work accident. At least Wuju hadn't been devoured, and his body was present for the funeral. general. Deokman commented that Ganghwa Island was no longer safe. Kang asked about Maru, wanting to know if he was really leaving. Deokman confirmed, saying he had already resigned and that he would notify headquarters the next day. Kang said she wanted to try talking to him, but the captain said he wouldn't come back, as he knew exactly what it was like to go through that. Deokman explained that when he was part of the Soul Office, a level 10 demon appeared and killed almost his entire team, leaving only him alive. Watching all his comrades die wasn't something one could easily overcome. While resting at home, Han was surprised by a blood-covered figure emerging from a dimensional rift in the wall. It was Director Ildo, who said he had come for a talk and hoped he hadn't startled him. Han asked how he had gotten there, and Ildo replied that he had been killing a demon nearby and decided to drop by. Ildo grabbed a towel to wipe off the blood and said he had heard about the possibility of Han quitting because of Wuju's death. Han thought he was there to blame him for what had happened, but Ildo said that wasn't it. According to him, Wuju died because he was weak, and nothing more. Han couldn't understand how he could say something like that about one of his own subordinates. Ildo explained that what really concerned him was Han's reaction to everything, saying he might end up like his father, Suwon. Surprised, Han asked how he knew his father. Ildo said that he had fought alongside him in the same battalion, and that both were in the field when the first demon appeared, in 1999. At the time, Ildo and Suwon were both 30 years old. The attack began suddenly, and even under heavy fire, the demon wouldn't fall. Suwon shouted for them to concentrate their fire, but Ildo, frozen in fear, only moved again when Suwon pulled him, reinforcing his position as a member of the 6th Battalion. When another soldier was killed, Suwon ordered all grenades to be thrown at the monster. The explosions tore it in half, but it remained alive and began releasing a yellow dust no one recognized. That dust quickly healed the demon, which easily killed everyone in front of it. Ildo said that in that battle they lost many troops. Still stunned, Suwon asked what that yellow smoke was. Then, he suddenly ran in a specific direction, and Ildo followed him. That's when they encountered a massive demon. Ildo told him to back away, but Suwon replied that they shouldn't retreat, because that was the only way to survive. At that moment, a demon with the power of dimensional rifts appeared, and pierced Ildo's chest. He explained that this was when everything changed. Upon coming into contact with the blood of these monsters, they absorbed part of their powers. Han asked what happened to his father afterward. Ildo revealed that he was already planning to create an organization to fight demons, and wanted Suwon as his partner. However, the power he had received left Suwon in shock. From then on, he had only one goal: to reach the abyss. Han remembered his father's words about reaching it, and Ildo said that since they couldn't kill demons, the only option was to become one. He also said that ability users had demonic blood running through their veins, like a virus that could transform them. Later, alone, Han began to wonder if his father had really gone to the abyss to become a demon. Ildo warned him that if he stopped fighting demons, he would be considered an enemy. Han decided he could not turn his back on humanity, just like his father. The next morning, the captain noticed Han hadn't come to work and prepared to finalize his resignation report. But suddenly, Han appeared, apologizing for being late. Everyone went silent, staring at him. Han thought that now he had a new goal: to discover the whole truth from inside the special service. He didn't fully believe what Director Ildo had told him, as he was sure his father would never become a demon. Meanwhile, Ildo was working, watching a demon inside a capsule, and murmured that it was almost time to find the abyss. In the office, the atmosphere was heavy with Han's presence, and no one wanted to talk much. At lunchtime, Han refused to go with the others, saying he wasn't hungry. Diane asked if only they were going to eat, and where the captain and Han were. She also said she was worried about him, since he had been down ever since Wuju's death. Kang said it wasn't just him, but also Yosi, and that the entire office was feeling low. That night, when the captain got home, he asked Han to take out the trash while he made ramen. Outside, Han ran into Kang and asked if she lived there too. She said yes, explaining it was close to work, and that officers Kim and Diane also lived in the same building. Kang helped with the trash and told him he didn't need to carry everything alone, as no one blamed him for Wuju's death. That was everyone's responsibility, they were a team. Han told her she didn't need to comfort him, but Kang replied she wasn't trying to comfort him, but to make him get over it. If he didn't, he wouldn't survive. She reminded him that everyone there had already lost someone special. That was exactly why they were all there. The next morning, a level 6 alarm sounded. The captain wasn't feeling well because he had eaten spoiled food. The odd thing was, he had prepared dinner the night before. When Han got up, Seonwoo said he would go in the captain's place, implying that Officer Han would mess everything up again. Jiwoo heard that and asked if that comment was really necessary. Moments later, Han collapsed, unable to move, and Jiwoo repeated that the remark had been totally uncalled for. Seonwoo just thought he was acting pathetic. Later, upon arriving at the affected area, Jiwoo told Seonwoo he should think before speaking, and asked if he hadn't seen Han's expression. He replied that she shouldn't worry about that weakling, and that they should focus on finding the demon. In the next instant, Seonwoo was struck in the head, losing consciousness for quite some time. When he woke, the demon was already there, and Sok was also down. In a swift move, Seonwoo snapped the creature's neck, and everyone who had been unconscious around them woke up. Jiwoo asked if the demon had been killed, and Seonwoo replied that it seemed so. Then they saw a fat cat and wondered if it was Champ's. Jiwoo asked Yoseok if he knew the animal, and he said it looked a lot like his cat, though he didn't know why it would be there. Lightheartedly, he said said at least now his cat would have a little brother, and stated he would take it with him. Seonwoo asked if he was really going to bring a cat to the office, but Jiwoo said it would make him happy and that it was fine. Soon after, Seonwoo returned, carrying the fat cat, saying, "Look what we found on the mountain." Kang told him to put it down immediately, but Yoseok only said the cat was cute, not realizing it was actually a demon. The cat attacked, firing darts into the heads of 3 people in the office, then ran off. Still thinking it was a cat, Yoseok chased after it. Along the way, he came across large doors inside the building. The captain got up, asking if that was a demon, and if someone had brought the creature from the mountain inside. Everyone glared at him. Some tried to justify it, saying it looked like a cat, while others said they had also seen the same thing. Despite this, the group decided they would deal with the matter of blame later, because now there was something more urgent. Yellow dust was inside the building, and they needed to investigate what was behind those doors. When they opened them, they found a forest that looked like a different world, clearly a large illusion. Kang soon spotted the demon, a huge, deformed spider. She asked if anyone remembered whose monster that was, because the body under it was Jiwoo's son. At that moment, Jiwoo remembered the day she had first encountered a demon. She claimed that it was her son, but Kang snapped her out of it, explaining that it was all just an illusion caused by the poisonous darts, which implanted false memories in the victims' minds. Han asked if the demon was really an illusion, but Seonwoo replied that it was probably real, being generated from the information in Jiwoo's blood. Han thought about the possibility that they could produce demons, and remembered what the director had said. They had demonic blood running through their veins. Then he asked if the demon that had given him power could also appear there. Kang replied that yes, both he and the level 10 demon who had granted power to the captain could appear, unless they killed the one responsible for all of it. The idea scared Han, who feared that if they didn't kill the original demon, the Devourer would show up and could kill someone on his team. Seeing his concern, the captain said no one would die there, because they would protect each other. While Seonwoo was breaking the spider's legs, Han finished it off by cutting its neck. The death was quick. After that, the group passed through another door and entered a new illusion. Kang asked Jiwoo if she was alright. She seemed shaken but a little better. Han reflected that it was the same demon who had killed Jiwoo's son, and seeing it again must have been terrible. He recognized it as the reproduction demon. The next door showed Kim's memories. There was mold everywhere, because that was the demon that had given him powers. Kim remembered his wife almost dying in that place, and how he himself had almost been taken. Yoseok commented that he was on the ceiling when the demon began spreading spores, and one of them fell into Han's mouth, nearly suffocating him. He felt his lungs fill, and realized that everyone was going through the same thing except him, who remained standing thanks to his regeneration. That meant the fight now depended on him. Han killed the demon and devoured its flesh, but received no powers, since it was all just an illusion. He asked if everyone was okay, and Seonwoo said he thought he was dead. Meanwhile, Kim cried as he saw the illusion of his wife. Han thought he wasn't the only one struggling, and decided he couldn't hold back anymore. At that moment, Seonwoo bumped into him, interrupting his thoughts. Han got irritated, thinking he always showed up at the worst times. When Seonwoo tried to open the next door, Han stopped him, saying they didn't know what was behind it. Seonwoo, however, replied that it didn't matter, they would have to go through anyway. When they crossed the door, the group found themselves face to face with Seonwoo, not the current one, but Seonwoo from the past. Han was confused, trying to understand if it was really him or not. Then, before them, appeared the effigy demon. The Seonwoo from the past asked for power, saying he wanted to have strength greater than his own father's. Han asked if he had accepted a demon's power on purpose and questioned what was wrong with him. Seonwoo explained that he had done it only to face his father, but at that moment his leg was broken and he almost got hit. He said it was enough and he didn't want to make an even bigger scene in front of the others. He tried to break the demon's bones, but the creature had many hands and fingers, destroying Seonwoo's body from the inside. Han and Kang tried to act, but soon realized the situation was terrible. The demon began breaking all the fingers scattered throughout its own body, hitting the entire team. Han realized it was too strong and noticed Seonwoo lying on the ground. He commented that he had the same powers as that creature. Annoyed at being ordered around, Seonwoo thought he wanted the power of a demon stronger than his father's, but at the moment he wasn't even close to Hanmaru's strength. He needed to do something, or it would all be pointless. When the demon attacked again, Han could barely move. He was in intense pain, but the evolution power wasn't activating because his regeneration was blocking the effect. He asked the captain to do something, but Deokman replied that he couldn't move fast enough to rip out the creature's eyes, as his healing was too slow. Han thought he was useless, and then ordered Seonwoo to act, since he was the bearer of that ability. The other told him to shut up, saying he already knew what to do. Then he broke his own tooth, and used the opportunity to tear off the demon's arm, creating an opening for Kang to attack. But even then, her sword couldn't cut through the creature's flesh. With so many broken bones, she didn't have the strength to finish the blow. Suddenly, Kang began to float. Han wondered what was happening, and Xianwu realized it was bad. The demon had spilled its own blood on the ground, causing several arms to lunge at Kang, twisting and breaking her body in several parts. When Han tried to help her, he was also captured by those invisible hands. Xianwu decided that if the creature could use its own blood, then so could he. He bit his own arm and used his blood to restrain the demon's body. At that moment, Jiwoo struck the creature in the neck with the spider's leg, killing it instantly. Everyone was exhausted and shaken, thinking about how hard that fight had been. Xianwu thought that, in the end, it hadn't been so bad, as he had learned more about his powers thanks to the battle. Han commented that he hoped he would use this experience in the future, but Xianwu replied rudely, telling him not to order him around and mocking him for biting a demon's butt. They moved on to the next door, which made a strange noise. Yoseok asked what it was, and Kang said it sounded like Du Han Maru's devourer demon. Han thought that now it would be his turn. When they opened the doors, they found a scene from the past. Him, still a child, beside his father, standing before the enormous devourer demon. Everyone was shocked by the sight, and Xianwu and Kang noticed that the creature had the same eyes as Han when he transformed into that strange form. In the past, Suwan had said that it was the only way to reach the abyss, and that if Han wanted to protect the people he loved, he would need the devourer's power. Han objected, saying the director had accused his father of being crazy. To him, that meant director Ildo had lied. Meanwhile, Ildo himself was in a meeting with the commander. He said the situation was worse than he had thought. The commander asked what exactly was bad, and he explained that the number of users was growing, along with the number of demons, but the problem wasn't the quantity, it was the quality. There weren't enough level 7 users or higher, especially near in Han. She asked what he could do, since it wasn't possible to create more powerful users out of nowhere. Ildo suggested that maybe they could, but stopped, and the commander asked if he was suggesting letting innocent people die so that some of them could awaken as users. The conversation was interrupted by the secretary, who reported that the requested documents were delayed because Ganghwa Island wasn't responding. The commander ordered them to immediately identify the reason, because at that very moment, on the island, they were facing the devourer demon itself. Back in the confrontation, Han thought he just wanted to go home. Then, suddenly, the demon began to melt before them, turning into a pool of blood. He asked why it had disappeared without fighting, and Deokman commented that it seemed to be a very different kind of demon from the others. Jiwoo commented that, in a way, it was actually good. Nobody wanted to fight the devourer demon, and now a new door had appeared directly, without them having to face it. Jiwoo then said it must be Officer Kang's turn, and she stated that this time she would go alone. Han tried to warn her, saying it was dangerous, but Kang insisted that she wanted to bring down that creature without help, to train for the day she encountered the real one. Determined, she drew her blood blade and entered alone. Han thought it was a risky move, thinking that even Xianwu had barely managed to defeat his own demon. Still, he peeked through the gap in the door to watch the fight. To his surprise, Kang was doing very well, but as he watched more closely, he noticed there was another demon in her vision, one that seemed intelligent and in full control of the situation. Both of them saw that this creature was also starting to melt, just like the devourer demon. Then the steel demon she was fighting broke Kang's sword and prepared to decapitate her. Even so, she told everyone not to get involved, saying that target was hers. Han, however, shouted for her to focus on the demon's armor and reminded her that, just as Xianwu had discovered a new ability, she could do the same. At that moment, the doors suddenly shut, not by accident, but because Xianwu had decided to close them. He said that was enough, but Han complained that now they couldn't see what was happening. From outside, they could only hear the sounds of clashing swords, violent slashes, and limbs being severed. Finally, Kang reappeared, exhausted but without serious injuries. She collapsed into Han's arms, and Xianwu admitted to himself that she had been amazing. He had needed help to defeat the effigy demon, but Kang had managed to take that one down alone. Jiwoo commented that now there were only 2 demons left, the captain's and Yoseok's. Yoseok confirmed this but questioned why another door hadn't appeared. Xianwu then said that, thinking about it, that first demon they had met on the mountain had powers very similar to Yoseok's process. He explained that the first time he had encountered his own demon, he had been looking for a lost cat in the mountains and ended up coming across it. Jiwoo asked about the captain's darkness demon, and he replied that probably even the reproduction demon hadn't noticed its presence. Some thought that didn't make sense, others thought he was being too calm. Xianwu thought that, in the end, the captain hadn't done anything, but admitted he was relieved not to have to face a level 10 demon. The captain said that everyone was fine, but Han reflected that it wasn't something to be relieved about. When the yellow dust finally disappeared and there was no more sign of the demon, the captain commented that Kang had probably defeated the reproduction demon inside. He then suggested they go to the hospital and promised to treat everyone to barbecue later. At that moment, Han punched him in the face, shocking everyone. Han said that was not the real captain. Jiwoo asked if he was crazy, but Han explained that he was sure. The day before, the captain had suffered severe diarrhea after eating barbecue, to, and certainly wouldn't want to eat it again so soon. Realizing it was true, everyone started kicking the fake captain, who begged them to stop. Then he stood up in silence and began to run. That was when the real captain appeared and crashed into him, saying he was feeling sick and hadn't even noticed he'd hit someone. In fact, the fake captain was the reproduction demon. After the incident, the captain gathered everyone and said that if headquarters found out Yoseok had brought a demon there, they would be in serious trouble and lose the entire year's pay. Therefore, everyone had to keep quiet. Kang thought, relieved, that she could finally go home because she was exhausted. Before she left, Seonwoo asked to talk. He said that the demon that had appeared in her memories looked familiar to him. Kang asked where he had seen it, and Seonwoo explained that he believed that demon was actually Director Ildo. He then told her what had happened 20 years earlier. As a child, he had asked his mother where his father was, and she replied that he was in the basement again, not caring about them. Even though he had been told not to bother him, he went there and saw him in a bizarre form, exhaling yellow dust. Kang asked if the demon in her memories was the director, and Seonwoo confirmed it was. Although at the time he hadn't been certain, now, after seeing her memory, he was completely convinced. Finally, Kang asked if the director had been the demon who had watched her entire family die. Seonwoo replied that it was a good question, and revealed that he had become a special public officer precisely to find out the truth about Ildo. Seonwoo had become a powerful ability user so that he could work at the main office and keep Director Ildo under surveillance. But Kang said that a childhood memory wasn't enough proof, and asked if he had any concrete evidence. Seonwoo replied that they could prove it, and that he had an idea, but would need something first. Later, at the main office, Han woke up not knowing where he was. Kang explained that she had already told him everything along the way, but Han asked why he was there with that idiot. At that moment, Director Ildo entered the meeting room, apologizing for being late and asking if they wanted to see him. Without delay, Seonwoo went straight to the point and asked if he had been present when Officer Kang received her powers. Han thought the approach had been too blunt. Ildo said he didn't quite understand the question. Kang explained that, at the moment of her transformation, there had been a different demon with unusual eyes, and that she had heard that this demon was him. Ildo replied that she was simply being influenced by her son's obsessions, since Seonwoo had always blamed him for his mother's death. Seonwoo retorted that his mother had nothing to do with it, and that he only wanted the truth. He then asked Han to release some yellow dust to reveal Ildo's true identity. Han asked if that was why he had been brought there. Ildo warned that if he spread dust inside the room, he would be immediately fired. Kang interrupted, saying she wanted the truth but didn't want to put everyone at risk. However, Han remembered a moment at her old house and asked if she had discovered something that day. When she confirmed it, he decided to leave the matter to Seonwoo and activated the yellow dust. Seonwoo said he would handle it. He accused the director of treason, asking if someone who had abandoned his wife and child still deserved to be called a father. He moved in to attack, and when he broke his fingers, he didn't strike the director's neck, but instead hit the window, pushing him outside. Kang warned that if he fell, he would die, since there was no yellow dust below. Seonwoo replied that they would see. Ildo said that it was annoying, and suddenly reappeared behind them using teleportation, also exhaling yellow dust. At that moment, Young entered the room, asking what was going on and where that dust was coming from. She demanded that the director explain, and Kang told the deputy director that there was something about Ildo she needed to know, as he was connected to the death of her family. Ildo wanted to know if only they were aware of it. The group's silence was answer enough. He remarked that kids these days didn't know what they were getting into. He then used mass teleportation and sent them all to a building under construction, far from the office. Young asked again what he was doing, and Ildo replied that the group had stuck their noses where they didn't belong, leaving him no choice. He added that he didn't want to dirty his office with blood and organs. Then he made a dimensional slash, trying to hit everyone's necks. They managed to react in time and avoid the blow. Young shouted, asking what he was doing. Ildo said he was cutting the problem at its root because they knew something they shouldn't. He regretted that Young and the twins were involved, as they could have been useful fighting for the Abyss, but declared that he especially wanted to eliminate Han, since if Han entered the Abyss, it would be a big problem. Han asked why he would join the Abyss, and Ildo replied that you never know, as humans are weak, and he would prove it. He opened a portal behind them and, in a quick move, cut off Seonwoo's and Kang's heads. Han barely managed to react, but Young took action. She pierced her own heart to activate her ability. Eternal Pause, trading 5 years of her life to rewind 5 seconds of time. When the director realized it, he said the attack had been in vain, since Young had used her powers. He asked if she had sacrificed that much of her life just to save those kids. Han, confused, asked how they were alive after seeing 2 deaths right in front of him. The deputy director wondered how Han could know that Young had used her ability, as he shouldn't have felt anything. With time rewound, the twins charged at Ildo, but he dodged easily using his portal, and appeared in front of Seonwoo. Seonwoo then asked how someone who had just tried to kill him could still be called his father. At that moment, Seonwoo broke several of Ildo's bones, but the director only replied coldly that he wasn't his father. He then almost killed him with another dimensional slash. Seonwoo ended up distracted, and Han and Kang had to intervene to save him. Han warned him not to get distracted or he could die again, while the deputy director said she wanted Seonwoo alive because she still had many questions for him. The twins said they couldn't promise anything but joined hands to channel the power of the twin demons. Nambu rushed forward, pulling threads and using the power that gave him double speed, strength, and control over blood. Even so, Ildo easily cut off his head. Even decapitated, Nambu managed to land a strong punch on the director's face, saying he had him now. Nero declared that no one could kill them while they were connected, and the director tried to cut the threads, but it was useless, as blood bonds cannot be severed. Nambu thanked the director for everything he had done but said it was time to end it. Han acknowledged that the twins were impressive, but Seonwoo noticed that the director dodged easily. That was when Kang realized they weren't trying to hit him directly, but to bind his entire body with the blood threads. When they finally trapped him, Young ordered them to attack his arms. Kang cut the left one, Seonwoo broke the right one, and Young stated that now he couldn't use his hands anymore. She told Han to bite him to stop his regeneration, but at that moment, Ildo transformed. His body split completely, passing through the threads and regenerating immediately. Han was swallowed by the shadows and disappeared. Ildo, now in his true form, apologized to the deputy director, saying he hadn't intended to reveal it in front of her. Kang and Seonwoo recognized that demonic appearance. It was exactly the same they had seen before. Seonwoo thought that wasn't his father and wondered where the real one was. Ildo said it was a shame to have to eliminate warriors he himself had created, which surprised Kang. The director revealed that he had brought the demon to Kang's house when she was an elite athlete, knowing she would become an excellent ability user. Furious, she charged at him, but Young tried to stop her. Kang struck with all her strength but was completely disintegrated, erased from space-time. Young spent 5 years of her life to go back in time and prevent it, warning that it would have been a pointless death. Kang asked how they could defeat him, but Young admitted she didn't know, as he was much stronger in that form. They needed reinforcements and couldn't even get close. Kang said Tone would have to find a way to get him out of there, but the deputy director said it was impossible. Anyone trapped in the director's shadow space would never leave. Meanwhile, Han ran non-stop until he collapsed from exhaustion. He realized there was only darkness around him until he saw a light in the distance. As he got closer, he saw it was the body of a human who looked like Ildo. The man asked who Han was and was surprised to see a human there. Han explained that he was trapped because of someone who looked very much like him and asked who the one outside was. The man, named Yudo, said that it was a demon that had escaped from the abyss. Han noticed that he had eyes and spoke normally. Yudo explained that it was one of the 8 greatest demonic beings, those who had received power directly from the king of the abyss. Unlike common demons, who act only on the instinct to kill, these had awareness and their own will. Meanwhile, Kang said they needed to protect the deputy director because if she died, they would be finished. In the fight, one blow killed all 3, Kang, Seonwoo, and Han, leaving only the deputy director, who had to rewind time 3 more times to save them. The real Ildo warned that these demons were extremely powerful because of the king of the abyss, and that if they encountered one of the 8, they should avoid fighting, as an ordinary user could never defeat them. The demon then asked how much longer the director would have to spend, and opened several portals around, releasing an entire horde of creatures. Han wondered what the space demon's goal was and why, being one of the 8, it was fighting against its own kind. Ildo explained that, the moment someone leaves the abyss, the king of the abyss becomes their enemy. The space demon was recruiting humans for a war against the abyss itself. Han wondered if the Yellow Dust Special Service had always been in fact the space demon's personal army. Han asked if killing the demon would end the war. Ildo replied that unfortunately not. The war against the abyss was already underway. Still, Han insisted that if the space demon were killed, he could get his body back. When he tried to pull Ildo out of there, Ildo said his mind was already part of that space, and that he could no longer leave. Han said that his son was waiting outside. Ildo asked if the little one was there but found it strange, as the boy was only 5 years old and should be in school. Even exhausted, Ildo admitted that it had been a long time since he'd spoken to anyone, but he still wanted to see his wife and son. Han insisted that he had to get him out, saying there had to be a way. Ildo replied that it was impossible. Meanwhile, outside, the others kept fighting the horde of demons. The space demon declared that the time had come to destroy both humans and demons. With dimensional slashes, it killed everyone except the small group of humans who remained in the center of the battlefield. Han arrived, delivering a flying kick directly against the space demon, while Kang wondered how he had managed to escape from there. Just minutes earlier, Ildo had explained that it was impossible to leave that place, but Han insisted that he had to find a way. Suddenly, a demon appeared to attack him, almost biting him, but he reacted with a direct punch to the creature's face. He found it strange for that enemy to be there, and at that moment, he remembered a specific conversation. Ildo had said that a portal remained open for 3 days, and mentioned that it was fortunate the director had appeared to take care of everything, praising his skills. That was when Han noticed one of the portals and decided to go to it. He wanted to know what was on the other side, but concluded it did not matter, as he would go through anyway. Upon passing through the portal, he did not return to Earth. Instead, he appeared in a frightening landscape where the dust was so dense it made breathing difficult. A voice ordered him to go back, and in front of him appeared a massive demon surrounded by an army. The ground shook, not from an earthquake, but from the advance of countless demons running toward him. He ran until he found another portal and threw himself into it at full speed. This time, he emerged directly in front of the space demon. The enemy dodged the punch, but everyone was shocked to see Han alive. He asked if everyone was all right and said he would take care of the situation. Su tried to warn him that the space demon was stronger than all of them combined, but Han believed he was strong enough to face him. The demon, surprised, asked how he had escaped his dark space. Looking at the portal, Han saw the Abyss King, who had finally found the space demon and began pulling him back. At that moment, Han saw the reflection of Ildo's original body and realized he needed to close that portal at any cost. Young noticed that other demons were fleeing, going back through the portals to close them, and used all his strength not to be captured by the Abyss King. He lost part of his power and blamed Han for it. When Han's head was cut off, Yo Young thought about going back in time, but Kang stopped him, knowing he still had the power of the evolution demon. Han emerged from a cocoon, stronger than before. The space demon kept slicing his body in half over and over, but he always regenerated, leaving everyone wondering if he was still human. Xianwu watched with a discreet smile. Han declared that he was in his final form. The space demon missed the last blow, and Han bit his neck. Kang thought he had done it, but while biting him, Han felt something strange. He tried to devour the enemy's power, but was taken back into the dark space. The space demon said he would regret it, revealing himself to be the Devourer demon, capable of consuming all powers. He explained that the Abyss had not sent him to take Han's powers, and questioned how long he would allow himself to be manipulated by the Abyss. He said he wanted to return to eternal prison, where he would fight in darkness, dying repeatedly. The demon stated he was not speaking to the human host, but to the true Devourer demon inside him, asking if he still was not controlling that body. He reminded him that he was one of the 8, and provoked his rage. The entity began to manifest inside Han, and the space demon encouraged him to break free and join the battle against the Abyss, abandoning the human body. The Devourer almost took control, but Han resisted. Determined, he told himself he would not allow himself to be controlled. He decided to devour the space demon and take his power. He managed to bite him and absorb his flesh, but the enemy said that without him, Han would never win. Both fell to the ground covered in blood. Kang held Han while Xianwu tended to his real father's body, covering it with his clothes. Namble recognized King Maru and celebrated. Young then wondered what would happen to the special service from now on. Later, everyone was gathered in Dean's impeccably tidy apartment, where it was revealed that the director was actually one of the top 8. It was hard to believe. Han had always suspected Ildo, but imagining he was a demon was unthinkable. Namble commented on a strange smell, while Nero questioned why his apartment was so small. Young spoke to Deokman, saying they should be in a meeting with all the regional deputy directors, but for the moment, the person she trusted most was him, and she asked what they should do. Deokman explained that if the information leaked, it would cause major chaos, bring serious consequences, and make the government take control. Young knew the entire organization was at risk, so Deokman decided they would keep everything secret until they figured out how to act. None of that information could leave that house. Later, Young left with the twins so everyone could rest. After that, Nero said he would leave, and Namble stated he would never come back. They commented that the room needed an urgent cleaning. Deokman took the opportunity to say that Young had sacrificed much of her life, but that he was proud to have a boss like her. Young responded only with a smile before leaving the apartment. Later, Xianwu was sleeping on the couch, and Han, as always, on the floor. Han asked why he had not gone home, but Xianwu simply said he was tired and told him to sleep in the room. He said he could not rest with someone nearby. Han commented that his room looked more like a closet, and that was why he slept there, not because he wanted to be with Xianwu. Since he was awake, Han took the opportunity to say that he had found his father. He explained that he was trapped in the space demon's dark space, that he had tried to bring him back but could not, and apologized. Xianwu replied that it was fine. Han added that his father was happy to know his son was alive, and that he missed him very much. He thought Xianwu should know that. Despite the conversation, Han was still thinking about the last thing the space demon had said. The 8 of the Abyss would come after him, and soon humanity would be finished. At the same time, the Abyss King was sending another of his own, whose appearance was very similar to Han's father. The next morning, the commander of Inshan was shocked to learn of the director's death. Young explained that a group called the 8 of the Abyss would appear, composed of the most powerful demons, determined to destroy humanity. They were the ones who killed the director. She said this in an emergency meeting with all the deputy directors. Myung-sik was extremely angry. The deputy director of Ganghwa province, Hwang Rahi, said they needed to decide who would be the next director and prepare to fight against the 8. Young Pyo, deputy director of Jula, suggested informing the government. But Huang Raihe questioned what the government knew about those enemies and said they would not know how to deal with the 8. Another member said they needed funds to fight the demons, otherwise they would be defeated. The meeting turned into a general brawl, and Young realized that without Ildo, everyone lost control. She thought that if they discovered the truth about the director, it would be every man for himself, which would be even worse. Meanwhile, Myongsik asked Young exactly who was responsible for the director's death. Han was exhausted, Suwon was cold, and he was wondering what kind of job this was. Dean asked him to finish the reports quickly, as they could not be delivered late. Han questioned in his mind why, with the 8 approaching, they were only doing paperwork. Jiwoo told everyone to speed up their work. Han concluded that this was the true routine of a public servant. After sending the last email, he felt more tired than after a battle against demons. Deokman praised everyone's effort and announced they would have a party the housewarming. Later, everyone was gathered, only men. Deokman explained that 2 new members would move in to prepare for the fight against the 8, since the building's penthouse was vacant. Han asked if he could move in too, and Deokman wanted to know if he did not like living with him. Han thought the answer was obvious and said Seonwoo would stay with the captain. Seonwoo refused to live there, but the captain suggested deciding it with rock, paper, scissors. Yoseok wanted to join in, and they all counted together. By the second round, he was already nervous. In the end, he was the only one to throw scissors against 2 rocks and ended up staying with the captain. In the new apartment, Han thought it would be strange to live with Seonwoo, since he had been very depressed after the director's death. He thought about trying to talk to him, but someone knocked at the door. It was the housewarming party, organized by the captain. Han told Jiwoo they did not need that, but Jiwoo replied that the goal was to cheer up Seonwoo. Han agreed it made sense, as everyone was worried about him. Later, however, the drinking had gotten so out of hand that beer was being spilled everywhere. Seonwoo was getting more and more irritated, especially after Kim clogged the toilet and he had to unclog it. He was no longer sad now, he was annoyed. Meanwhile, Han wondered where Officer Kang was. She was on the balcony, admiring the night view. Han asked Kang what she was doing outside. She replied that she just wanted some fresh air. He wanted to know if something was on her mind, as she had seemed down in recent days. Kang explained that now that the demon who killed her family had been defeated, she felt lost, as if everything she had done had been for nothing. Han said revenge would never bring her family back. She gave a small smile and assured him she would recover. She then asked how he was feeling now that he knew he carried the power of one of the 8. Han admitted he tried not to think about it too much, as he feared losing control of his humanity. Seonwoo, who was nearby, interrupted and said that would not happen. If necessary, he would beat him back to his senses. Besides, there were more urgent things to worry about, such as what Han had seen in the basement. A few days earlier, they had stood before a huge experiment the space demon was developing. Deokman asked how it had been hidden and what exactly it was. Young replied she did not know, but apparently, if the abyss touched that demon, it would be the end of humanity. The captain tried to lighten the mood, calling everyone to drink and saying there was no point in drowning in depression. They concluded there was no sense in just worrying, since that would not stop things from happening. Meanwhile, Suwon was starting his own work with a massacre. That same night, Suwon invaded a building, filling the entire place with his yellow dust. The main office went into maximum alert, as one of the 8 had invaded headquarters. At the National Intelligence Service, the Minister of Defense asked if the director had been killed by one of the 8, and how they would handle it. Young explained that from now on, the fight would be completely different, and that, to avoid more civilian casualties, international countermeasures would be needed. The minister refused, stating they would not change defense policies and would deal with the problem only within the country. The chief of staff said the key was to remain discreet, reminding them they were still at war. Young asked what the situation was in other countries, as she knew demons were not limited to Korea. The head of national intelligence replied that this information should be considered basic. Young thought they needed to head to the front lines, but believed the government was doing nothing for the cause. Then she received an emergency call. One of the 8 had invaded the main headquarters. The frontline team was sent to face Suwon. They noticed his eyes were different from the others, and that his dust was much denser. They did not know what his power was, but one of the fighters said that, either way, cutting off his head would solve it. Using the power of the wind demon, the warrior sliced Suwon's body into several pieces. However, when the head hit the ground, the one coughing up blood was the wind warrior himself. His blood began to be drained back into Suwon's body, which absorbed flesh and bone to regenerate. In no time, he was almost completely healed. The fighter with the power of flaming arrows tried to attack him, but was also injured by her own shot. Suwon replied that it was an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, and revealed himself to be one of the 8 of the Abyss, the resurrection demon. The remaining group was shocked to realize he would not die, and could still speak normally. He asked about the demon that the space demon had hidden, making it clear he was there there to find him. The surviving members of the special service tried to stop his search, but Suwon revealed the many sword tattoos scattered across his body. He used one of them to kill 2 fighters at once, slicing them in half along with the entire floor of the building. To allow for evacuation and prevent the structure from collapsing on the city, a woman with the power of the restoration demon appeared. She knew the deputy director needed to arrive quickly. Young understood that the situation was critical. This demon could resurrect countless times and was searching for one of the 8 who remained hidden on Earth, most likely the same one the director had kept underground. Kang knew it would take about 20 minutes to reach headquarters. For that reason, she decided to contact her trusted person, Captain Deokman, who, unfortunately for her, was completely drunk. The people around him wanted to know what was going on, and the captain explained that one of the 8 had attacked Seonwoo's headquarters. He then spoke directly to Han, saying they needed to go there immediately and asking if he could use the space demon's power. Han first tried to activate his yellow dust, but upon using the power, he found himself in a confusing scene with multiple locations overlapping. He didn't know what to do with so many possible places, and began bleeding from the nose. Deokman said there was no time to hesitate, and that he needed to learn to control the power. Han tried again, and ended up taking everyone with him to the bedroom of a boy who was just playing on his computer. Deokman quickly apologized, and Han tried one more time. This time, the group appeared in the middle of a gang party, nearly getting killed. Yosiak commented that taking a taxi would be faster, and Han realized he still had no idea how to use that power. Meanwhile, 5 minutes after the resurrection demon had arrived at headquarters, the building was still standing thanks to the restoration user's power, but almost everyone was already dead. Exhausted, she asked how many powered users remained. The candle user replied that besides them, there were only 3 more with support abilities. 2 of them, both level 8, were on the 25th floor facing Suwon directly. The demon complained that fighting humans was boring. The crow power user tried to strike him, but Suwon easily dodged and moved toward the second fighter. Even with the iron fist power, the man was cut in half. The candle user noticed that 2 more candles had gone out, meaning the death of 2 more allies. Now, only they remained alive. Shortly after, Han's group teleported onto the roof of a house. Kang asked if he was alright and told him that if he couldn't do it, he should stop. But Han replied that he was getting used to it, and that the spaces were starting to make sense. He just needed more time. At headquarters, Suwon approached the last survivors and asked if they were the remaining ones. He promised that if they answered his question, he would spare their lives. He wanted to know where the 2 members of the 8 who lived on Earth were. The user who was with the women insisted that they focus on keeping the building standing and saving civilians. He then used the water shield power. Suwon threw his spear at him, causing only a scratch on the shield. He admitted it was an interesting ability, but then pulled another weapon from a tattoo on his back. He asked if the man could block that and fired an arrow, which ignited in mid-air and began evaporating the shield. The arrow struck directly into the heart of the restoration user. When she fell, the building began to collapse. The candle user decided to sacrifice her flame to save her friend, which caused great emotion among them. The last fighter ordered her to use her power quickly before the structure came down. Even shaken and unable to focus properly, she tried. Suwon, however, fired 5 more arrows. The man stepped in front of one of them, nearly dying. That was when Han appeared, saying he would take care of it, and swallowed 2 arrows using the space power. The resurrection demon noticed his power and asked if he carried the space demon's power. He called him the Devourer demon and greeted him as brother. When Han tried to use a dimensional rift, Deokman stopped him, saying that, according to intelligence, that enemy was the resurrection demon and could not be killed, since everything he lost he regained. At that moment, Han had his arm torn off and complained that they could have warned him earlier. Deokman stressed that they couldn't cut off his head. Irritated, Han wondered how, then, they could kill that creature. The resurrection demon asked the Devourer where his brother was. Han knew he was referring to the demon in the underground and wanted to know why he wanted that information. Suwon explained that he had come to take both of them to the Abyss King. Han realized there was no chance they would go willingly, and the resurrection demon made it clear that if necessary, he would take them by force. He advanced with his 2 katanas, but before he could cut Han's neck, Seonwoo broke the blades using the effigy power. At that moment, he reflected on how they could kill that creature without hurting it directly, since it was intelligent, like the space demon. He thought that perhaps only mental damage could interrupt the resurrection, making it the only way to defeat him. Kang tried to attack him, but her blade was easily intercepted. Even so, the move opened a gap for Jiwoo's spider to partially devour him. Deokman ordered everyone to reposition. Meanwhile, in the office, some were asking who those people were. Deokman replied they came from Ganghwa Island and had been sent by the deputy director. He assured them everyone would get out together, as long as they could keep the building standing. The resurrection demon, however, killed the spider from the inside out, leaving Jiwoo worried about her companion Min, whom she wanted as a pet. But that that had only put everyone in more danger. Xianwu tried to save her, breaking the demon's fingers, but the blow also broke his opponent's entire arm, showing that their powers were similar. Suwan remarked that he was a great nuisance and threw a dagger, which was blocked by Kang, who ended up with her arm covered in cuts just from intercepting the attack. The demon did not stop there. When he was about to attack again, Han launched himself using the power of space, but was grabbed by the neck while Kang was restrained by the enemy's blade. The demon asked why the Devourer was fighting alongside humans, and hinted that he could forcibly tear the human out of him. Suddenly, the ground began to be swallowed by a pool of darkness. It was Deokman, who had already ripped the enemy's eyes out. Suwan grew angry again, and shortly after, the demon found himself in absolute emptiness, feeling nothing. Deokman knew that decapitating him would be useless, so he began to pull part of his team out of there, taking Kim, Jiwoo, Yosok, and 2 other members of the office. Their goal outside was to bring reinforcements, while the others remained inside. Yosok asked if those who stayed behind would be able to hold out. At that moment, Deokman woke Han up with a slap to the face. Han wanted to know why they were in the basement, and Deokman explained that it was the safest place to minimize damage. Xianwu ignored the subject and went straight to the point, saying they could not simply decapitate the resurrection demon. Han considered using the power of space to erase him completely, but Kang warned that it could destroy Han himself, and even everyone there. Deokman then said there was only one way, and whispered his plan to Han. The demon reappeared, destroying several floors at once, and said he had finally found his brother. He asked if they still intended to stop him and mocked them, saying that 4 people would not be able to defeat him. Han replied that it would not be just 4, and used teleportation to summon all the members of the special force. Suwan found his persistence irritating, but at the same time interesting. Even so, there was the risk that this gathering could help the enemy kill everyone, turning the demon into a slaughter machine with dozens of assists. At that moment, Myongsik asked if that creature was one of the 8, and wanted to know what was going on. Hwang Rahi asked why everyone was there, and why he had brought the boy who used the director's power. Myongsik commented that it had been a while since he had seen Dekman, but was interrupted with the order to read the boy's mind. He did so instantly and said he understood everything. Now it was the group's turn to act. Myongsik used the power of the telepathy demon, seeing everything that had happened and transmitting the information directly into everyone's minds at the same time. They all had to follow the same agreed-upon plan. The commander considered it a huge mess and commented in frustration that her career had plummeted after so many years of having to follow one of Deokman's plans. Suwan thought that persistence was useless and annoying. He charged forward with a huge cleaver, but Myongsik ordered everyone to only defend, reinforcing that the resurrection demon could not be harmed physically in any way. Even so, Suwan managed to hit and injure several fighters. However, when the main defense entered the fight, his attacks had no effect. The defensive barrier was impenetrable. Suwan then realized they were only defending and decided to multiply his attacks. He created blade wings similar to those of an angel and spread weapons all over his body. When the commander was about to be struck, still charging her ability, Hwang Rahi intervened, using the power of the steel scale demon to protect her. She asked how long it would take, and heard a sarcastic comment about her impatience. The commander then activated the power of the carnivorous plant demon, which swallowed the resurrection demon whole. She declared that the first part of the plan was complete. Hwang Rahi began the second part, covering the plant with a layer of steel scales, saying she could hold it for only 30 seconds. At that moment, Jung Pyo stepped in, using the power of incineration, burning the enemy inside the plant for the exact amount of time. In the end, only smoke remained. Everyone wondered if the fight was finally over. They thought they had defeated the resurrection demon. However, a user with a dog's head, who had the power of the tracking demon, warned that he could still smell him. The demon was reassembling himself using all the bodies he had killed on the upper floor, reconstructing tendons, bones, flesh, hair, and skin until his body was fully restored. With a single blow, he almost brought down the entire building. In the end, Suwan said that everyone was predictable and broke through everything to reach the demon trapped inside a capsule. He asked about the Devourer's whereabouts and said he would come back for him later. Then he took the capsule with him back to the abyss. Inside it was the prophecy demon, considered capable of causing the extinction of humanity. The Soul Office was completely destroyed in just 10 minutes. Han realized they had lost and did not know what to do. News of the disaster spread quickly across all channels, generating theories of an attack from another country, terrorism, and even alien invasion. All of Korea wanted answers. While watching the reports in the bathroom, Han received a call from his mother, worried about the explosion. She asked if the Yellow Dust Task Force was commanded by him. Han told her not to worry, explaining that he worked on Ganghwa Island, and asked if she was okay. She said yes, but commented that the building hit was close to her workplace. Han thought that if the demon had left there, his mother could have died. At that moment, the twins knocked on the bathroom door, asking if he had diarrhea. Han wanted to know what was going on, and Nero explained that the vice director was looking for him. Later, he went to an important meeting attended by the commander of the main office and the 4 vice directors. During the meeting, Jung Pyo said that now that Han was present, they could confirm the information with him. The commander asked why the temporary camp was located there. Myung-sik explained that the resurrection demon had promised to return to get Han Maru because he was one of the 8, just like the director and the resurrection demon himself. The commander was shaken by the revelation that the director had been a demon all along. Other members, such as Myung-sik, also showed sadness, recalling moments they had shared with him. Young-pyo cut the lamentations short and said they needed to decide how to deal with the threat, stating that soon Han would cease to be human, just like the director. Deokman, however, assured them that the Devourer was under control and that Han would not change. He emphasized that they needed his power, as he was the only one capable of facing one of the 8 on equal terms. The commander admitted that he was right, but asked why Deokman was participating in the vice director's meeting. Young explained that she had taken his position, as Deokman had once been vice director before her and was highly qualified. Han was surprised to learn that this man, who had always seemed like a lazy drunk to him, had once held such a position. The commander added that he had abandoned the post and isolated himself on the island, and that his last plan had failed, resulting in defeat to the resurrection demon. Deokman replied that the plan had been improvised. They finally had time to plan. Hwang asked how they would kill the enemy quickly enough to prevent him from resurrecting. The commander explained that the idea was only to capture and immobilize him so that her power would work. Myung-sik, however, said he was tired of that strategy, claiming that her power had not worked before and was completely useless. This made Pyo smile discreetly, leaving Hwang shocked at the comment. Soon after, chaos broke out. Han asked for permission to speak and suggested trapping the resurrection demon inside his black space. Young wanted to know how long it would take him to activate the ability, and Han replied that he would need only 5 seconds. If they could immobilize the enemy for that amount of time, he could put him in the black space so he would never escape again. Later, on Mount Mani, on Gangwon Island, Han wondered why he had been chosen as bait. He would have to stay alone, scared, cold, and hungry until the demon appeared. Perhaps it was the only way to keep the victims away. Suddenly, someone opened the tent, startling him. But it was only Kang, Jiwoo, and the rest of the team, who had come to keep him company. In fact, Seonwoo explained that the captain had ordered them to watch Han to make sure he did not run away. Han admitted that the demon was frightening and wondered if anyone would care if he died. While everyone was setting up camp, he noticed that no one seemed worried about him. One of the companions commented that Han was not the only one having a hard time. Kang told him not to worry and to think of it as a camping trip. Han agreed that it was better than being alone. Later, everyone was eating instant ramen, and Han asked if they had brought their own tents. Yoseok thought Jiwoo had brought them, but she explained that she had bought one only for herself and Kang. That meant the men had no tents and would have to share, which resulted in 4 of them crammed together, pushing and bothering each other. Han hoped the demon would show up soon. The portal appeared shortly after. On the other side, at the office, they realized the resurrection demon was coming out. Everyone was already in position for the plan. The enemy asked if they had kept him waiting, and Han, stepping out of the portal, replied that they had, saying he had missed him. The demon wanted to know if they would be using all their forces again, but Han said that this time it would be only a few. Suwon doubted they could defeat him with so few, remembering that they had already lost with more than 100 fighters. Han assured him it would be the rematch. He reminded everyone of the plan. 5 seconds. Pyo questioned why he was giving orders when he was only an officer, but Nambu stated that Han Maru was the center of the operation, and Nero told them to follow his lead. Pyo commented that since the death of Director Ildo, the emergency squad had been in decline. The twins promised to do their part, unlike Pyo. As they approached, the demon drew his sword but felt rain on his head and was frozen. Han knew that few people had been chosen to restrain him, but quality was more important than quantity. The twins used their blood bonds to slow him down, and when they finally managed to bind him, they signaled Han to act. Before that, the demon threw them far away. Po increased gravity 20-fold, but it only affected the twins. Han asked what he was doing, and Po replied that it did not matter as long as the demon could not move. Han had no time to argue. As he opened his black space, the demon stated that with increased gravity, his slash would be 20 times more powerful. With a single blow, he almost destroyed the entire forest. On the perimeter, fighters like Hwang raised barriers to protect the mountain and prevent landslides. Jung reminded them that they needed to stop the demon from regenerating, using bodies from elsewhere. All the animal-headed demons were there to track him. Yo Young announced the start of the second phase, and Deokman commented that he hoped Nambu would not get too excited, but he was already pumped up. When he was struck in the stomach, Nambu took the opportunity to grab the enemy's sword in hand, giving Myung-sik space to place his hand directly on the demon's mind. Now it was up to him and his squad. The enemy found himself in a completely different plane, and Myung-sik asked them to concentrate for 5 seconds while Han prepared his ability. The countdown began. Meanwhile, the demon fought against that mental plane, causing damage to allies in the real world. Myung-sik insisted that they hold on. Trapped in his own thoughts, the demon saw the figure of a man resembling Suwon, who was actually a distant ancestor of his family, a general from ancient times, remembering epic battles, his family, and moments of war. This general, however, was unstable, even going so far as to capture civilians from nearby villages and towns. The general showed no mercy and ordered all prisoners killed, as he liked to see people die and believed that by doing so, he would become immortal. At that moment, he was betrayed by his own right-hand man. The resurrection demon, however, realized that it was all just a mental attack based on his memories from when he was still human. He understood that they were trying to immobilize him that way, but considered the strategy useless. In just 2 seconds, he killed almost everyone participating in the mental attack. The survivors prepared to attack him together, even attempting emotional blackmail. Nothing worked. The demon killed everyone who tried to stop his escape. Meisai was severely wounded and fell, while the others used their powers to buy time and contain the enemy. In 3.7 seconds, he was already free. The captain tried to use his gravity power, but the demon cut off his own arm to break free. When there were only 9 milliseconds left for the plan to succeed, Han warned everyone not to get close. The enemy asked if that was the entire strategy, and Han thought it was time for his team to act. At that moment, the demon's knee was completely destroyed. The Ganghwa Legion team, hidden by Yossi's invisibility ability, took advantage of the opening. Kang created a massive pylon of blood, piercing the head of the resurrection demon. Right after that, Han finished opening the black space, trapping the enemy. He wondered if they had succeeded, and the trackers confirmed that the demon's scent had vanished. Hack happily ran toward him, and Mionik commented that it seemed to have worked. The commander acknowledged that they had almost failed. As Han stood up, he felt something strange. The resurrection demon had entered the black space on purpose, revealing that he had come to capture the Devourer demon. Han realized, too late, that the demon was trying to set it free. The mistake had been his. He never imagined that the Devourer was trapped inside, along with Director Hildo. Without meaning to, he had brought the two together. Determined to stop the enemy's plan, Han rushed into the black space. Kang and Xianwu followed, leaving everyone else outside. Inside, Han explained that he intended to use the space power to delete the opponent without restrictions. Xianwu reminded him that he couldn't face the demon alone, and Kang wanted to know if there was a concrete plan. Han assured them they would keep the demon immobilized, no matter the cost, and they moved toward where the two demons were fighting. Outside, Young was organizing the defense in case the enemy returned. Huang complained that the battle seemed endless, and Deokman hoped the worst would not happen. Yoseok asked what could be worse than the demon's return, and the captain explained that if Han was consumed by the Devourer, that would be the real disaster. Meanwhile, the resurrection demon was doing everything to awaken the Devourer, but all his fingers were broken, just like Xianwu's. Even injured, Xianwu broke his own arm to hit the demon's knee. Han's first delete was easily dodged, completely destroying his arm. Kang realized they needed to aim directly at the demon's brain to stop him. The demon grew angry and attacked with force. Kang shielded herself with her armor and ordered everyone to dodge, but Han and Xianwu were struck in the chest. Then Han was grabbed by the neck. The enemy said he would kill him right there to awaken the Devourer. Xianwu, using his effigy ability, created an opening for the attack, but the demon noticed and prepared to return the damage, cutting his own neck to kill Xianwu. At the last second, Kang drove a dagger into the demon's brain, leaving him unconscious for a few seconds, and told Han to hurry. Han knew that if he used delete at that moment, they would both die. So, he teleported Xianwu out first, which made him furious. Then he sent Kang away, returning her to the real world. Han was left alone with the unconscious demon. When the enemy woke up, they exchanged blows. In the middle of the fight, Han bit his hand and realized the best way to kill him. The demon could not regenerate, and the black space was starting to break apart. They would both be dragged into the void, disappearing together into the eternal abyss. Now Han had the power of the resurrection demon, which also made him immortal. His attacks would have no effect, and he declared that they would both die there. The enemy called him a fool, not believing he would risk his own life to kill him. Han said he had no intention of dying, but it had to be done. The demon then agreed to pay the price, cutting his own neck. Han asked if he thought he was the only immortal one. The demon tried to recover his power, but was completely sucked in, reduced to bones. His body was being torn apart. Holding Han's skull, he declared that Han deserved eternal pain, with no afterlife, no soul, no existence at all. He intended to take everything away, until the Devourer demon awoke, biting the enemy's neck. The resurrection demon reacted furiously, but was devoured to the bone. Meanwhile, Han Maru was regenerating his body. He wondered why the Devourer was helping him, suspecting that perhaps it wanted to eat him in the end. However, the Devourer embraced him, as if wanting to protect him. Han knew this would not change his fate. He would not leave alive. At least Kang and Xianwu would survive. A few minutes earlier, outside, when Kang and Xianwu were thrown far away, the others realized Han was about to absorb part of the resurrection demon's power. Kang explained that she had torn off Han's finger at the last moment before leaving. If he truly obtained the regeneration ability, he could revive from that finger. Yoseok asked if that was possible, and where he would get flesh and blood to regenerate his body. Everyone fell silent until he realized. They would all give parts of themselves so Han could return. When the black space finally collapsed, Han saw a light at the end of the tunnel, and decided to take the Devourer demon with him, since it had protected affected him. When he woke up, he was alive and naked. Confused, he asked how he was still there and why his companions were missing their arms. He learned that they had given them for his regeneration. Xianwu told him to quickly release the yellow dust so they could regenerate too, while covering him with a jacket. After releasing the dust, Jung commented that he had dealt with the demon. The commander said that now that the director was no longer with him, perhaps Han Maru was their last hope. At that moment, Jung made a call to someone important, the chief of Jeju Island. She informed them there would be an emergency meeting to deal with the next demons, and that all regional leaders should attend. The island chief confirmed her presence and said she was looking forward to measuring the strength of the so-called Eight of the Abyss.